house there.
Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Live. Welcome to the Massive Iron channel. I cut Faz off. Faz was going to tell me something important about Jeffrey Verity Schofield. We were on talking before we started, and I'm like, oh, gotta go. Click. Sorry, Faz.
Jeffrey's just released a response video to your "I'm not special" video.
So I think that'd
be funny. That'd be funny.
I gotta check that out. Yeah, that was a good topic. You know,
it's a good one.
I love him. I love Alpha Destiny, and you know, I'm always trying to support these guys. Always trying to support the good guys. You know, so I'm glad he's come along. He's going to have a long, sexy career just like you.
Oh, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. I'm here every Friday, and I don't think we got our little names up there, Faz. I think I got to figure out how to put the names up. But I'm here every Friday at 11 Eastern. Well, I'll be on as long as you guys have questions. Today I'm joined by Faz Lifts. Faz, can you tell us where you are from?
Hey folks,
find you.
I am Faz Lifts on YouTube and Instagram and everywhere else. Not been on the Friday Live for a while, so it's nice to be back on.
Yeah. I can't figure out why. I think when I started the thing, I had the names turned off, so no big deal. But
that's okay.
Yeah, we know what your name is, right, Faz?
Yeah.
So, guys, just before we get going, if your questions don't appear, it's not us ignoring you. YouTube's very funny, and you can try to. Sometimes it'll filter out words. Comment too long. Comments are too long. It'll restrict your comments. So you can head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman. Slide into my DM. It's right there down below. Slide into my DM, and I will post your question up. So, wow. Let us know where you got. Oh, you got Faz. What do you got going on there? I thought you were happy to see me.
This is my very needy cat. So.
Yeah. So your fiance is out of town, and you're stuck babysitting the cat.
Yeah, and she's very unlike my cat. She is very needy. My cat's pretty chill. He's like what you'd expect from a typical cat. He'll hang out, he'll chill. He likes the cuddles every now and again, but this one though, she's very needy. So I'm quite glad that my fiance is back tonight because that'll take a bit of pressure off me.
So before we want to start, I want to thank everybody who supported last week's sale. I mean, it was crazy. I contacted Faz. I'm like, man, let's just try this. Let's just build some work. I had some free time. So we did not expect the reception we got. So I want to thank everybody. I'm behind on my workouts. I need to do about 4 this weekend. I'll be caught up on this weekend. And so, Faz, I want to do a topic before we jump into questions. And guys, if you are new here, post up your questions. There's no dumb questions, no stupid questions, just awkward questions and really bad questions. So feel free. Don't be shy to post up a question. The cat's going crazy. Overthinking. So let me set the table. I got Team Mass, and if you guys are interested, you can check it out over at superlivingtheday.com. But I have a younger gentleman who watched a YouTube video. I'm not going to name the name because it's not important. But it basically was talking about creating this super, intense way to train triceps. So you get focus on the short head, the long head, every head, this head, that head, a good mix of heads. And he was trying to unravel this information, trying to unpack this information. How do I train? And I say what I always do: don't overthink it. Just get some good exercises you like to do that have a reasonable amount of progression that feel good for you, and just run the heck out of them. I also mentioned, Faz, that with triceps, every muscle group is different. So some muscle groups, you just have tons of options for exercises like back. Triceps, depending on your condition, like I can't do behind the neck stuff anymore. There aren't that many great exercises. So I basically said, man, don't overcomplicate things. There aren't that many great tricep exercises to begin with. Just, So, with overcomplication, Faz, it's great for video views, but really how much complication does it really take
Mm,
to get to where we want to go?
mm, yeah.
Would you say it's more about complication, or it's more about, finding exercises you like that are reasonable and just kind of evolving things?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the tricep example is a really good one because it's a topic which I'm going to make a video on at some point, because at the moment there's this current focus on overhead work with the triceps to emphasize the long head. Now, in fact, you and I have never spoken about this. So I don't know how you feel about this, Steve, but I think I want to give you guys a bit of a hot take, because I know that currently amongst the good guys, there's a big focus on overhead work for tricep extensions. But if you think about it, the best tricep builders are weighted dips and close grip benches, right? As most people would agree with that, or like push downs are pretty good too. But what builds the meat on your triceps is close grip bench and weighted dips. It's a really time proven exercises, and they are exercises where your arms are not in the stretched position. They're not overhead. So that differs from what people are saying right now. And I want to just make people aware that when it comes to tricep training, my opinion is that the long head is the biggest muscle of the triceps. Like, it's going to be activated no matter what exercise you do, as long as you're extending your arm. Doesn't matter if it's over your head or down by your side. And close grip bench and the weighted dips are the biggest mass builders for the triceps, and they aren't with your arms up there, they're your arms down here. So I actually want to go against what some of the current community is saying, causing a bit of drama, Steve. That I don't agree with this idea that we have to include overhead work for the best gains. One, anecdotally, we know that's not true, because close grip bench and weighted dips are very good tricep exercises. And secondly, the triceps, the long head is the largest head. It's going to do the majority of the work, whether you're benching, whether you're overhead pressing, whether you're overhead extending, or whether your arms are by your side. So I actually don't agree with that at all. And I think that's an example of people overcomplicating things and then getting it wrong, which is, I think, what you're warning people of.
Yeah, it's I mentioned this briefly in response. I did a video response to this. Is that there's a cancer in muscle building where we compartmentalize every lift. This lift works the long head. This lift works the short head. This incline works the upper chest. And it's not like that. I mean, yes, there might be more of a focus, but if you're getting brutally strong on close grips, then it's going to, it's a compound movement. Um, I've never my main triceps movements over the years have been cable tricep extensions, close grip bench, dips to a degree. And, when I was younger, before I had more girth, I would do behind the neck stuff like single arm dumbbell extensions. But the problem is, not a lot of people can do those comfortably. If you're a little bit overweight, you don't have the greatest flexibility. They're a little bit more difficult. I've been incorporating Paul Carter's PJR pullover a little bit more for clients. But, that's kind of an exercise not everybody likes, so. Yeah, I mean, don't overcomplicate this stuff. Don't think that you can't, like, we have to do this exercise instead of that. If I would say, if you're just trying to do overhead extensions and you're not doing your close grips or dips, you're not in the best position to do triceps.
No. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I kind of get the mentality. I get why people want to simplify things. I think people do it with diet as well, because the whole idea of how diet foods have become is popularized is due to this trying to simplify things. So people will say, okay, what's a good diet food? Like, well, they'll ask you, Steve, when they sign up to your coaching, they'll go, oh, can I eat oatmeal for breakfast? Is that a good food? And you kind of have to break it down and explain, well, this is what we're looking for. So I think people trying to simplify things because they're not used to the complexity and the true picture. So they'll try to simplify things. Whereas I think kind of what I'm saying anyway is, when it comes to triceps, you want to pick some time improvement movements and just get stronger on those over time. Right. Now, whether it's overhead extension, I do include overhead extensions in most of my programs, but then I'm also doing close grip benches and dips most of the time, which is the main builders. I just think people need to focus on what we know rather than speculating on the details, and that's where things start to get tricky.
Yeah, at the end of the day, getting a lot stronger on those big lifts is far more important than your exercise selection. And I'm one that would prefer you have a little bit of exercise variety, not excessive, but
Yeah.
I like to work in some exercise variety. I'm a paintball guy, a shotgun guy. You can have your paintball and it can say hit you in the upper chest, but when it splatters, it's going to hit different areas. And if you think about lifting in that terms, like you're going to target your areas, but it's going to hit other areas. You're going to look at the big broader picture.
Yeah.
Really good exercise selection. That's the best way to look at it, not as a collection of body parts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
can make the art of programming a little bit more nuanced than people think.
Yeah. 100%. I think if you're straying too far away from what looks like an established, good-looking routine, it's probably not a good idea. Like Steve, you'll remember a few years ago, everybody was obsessed with muscle protein synthesis. Do you remember that?
Right,
And
right.
like everyone was training body parts 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week. And while it's possible to do that, it requires a lot more thought. Like full body routines are an art form when it comes to programming them.
Oh
They
yeah.
require a lot more thought. So if it's starting to look a lot different to what is generally considered to be pretty decent, I think we have to look back. We have to pull back a little bit and think, okay, what are we trying to accomplish here? So yeah, I think for the most part, I think people should stick to well-established ways of working out. And yeah, for the triceps, it's fine to include some overhead extensions, but the bulk of your work, I think, should be in close grip bench and weighted dips, both of which are going to target your long heads, because the long head is the biggest muscle in the triceps. Just the way it is.
So yeah, we're gonna get into your questions just a moment, guys. But just one final thought. A full body workout is more complicated because you have fewer training days. You have everything in the mix, so you really have to think through your outline a little bit. With a little bit more focus. It has to make some sense. You just can't put 6 compound movements in every day, and it's just doesn't work that way. That's why things, like the HLM, the heavy light, moderate or medium or whatever you want to call it. Back in the day, I recall making programs like that where you had a heavy day where everything was heavy and a light day where everything was light. And then I realized that's probably a good idea to have a little HLM in each workout, so you're not just busting your balls with compounds. So anyway, hey, buy my friggin' cookbook.
Nice.
Yeah, well, I was bored for about 10 seconds and I made this on Canva. You can buy these shirts at superlivingtoday.com if you want to give me $2. Buy my friggin'
Yeah.
All right.
So with regards to going back to that full body a second, though, with regards to that, I think that's an area where I think you and I differ, but that's okay. See, I've generally always liked the heavy light medium routine, and I use that with my wizard book. But again, it's a case of trying, because I know that you have is it the Drunk Russian program, which is a full body. So there are 2 different ways of doing things. Now, my say is Steve's voice is in the mix, my voice is in the mix. Now, it's up to you as the audience to kind of decide, well, what's going to work for you. So the way that I've always done it is full body with a heavy, light, medium, expanding on that so you can do more days, perhaps adding in medium days, adding in light days. But it's not to say that other approaches are like horrendous, but that's one way of doing things, and it's a well-established way of doing things, which people have been doing, for decades now. So kind of tying this up to the original discussion, I think when it comes to things like the details, the particulars, getting too down in the weeds, as long as you're not straying too far away from the basics, it's probably okay. And so when it comes to mine and Steve's full body routines, we differ in that regard, but they both work. So it's you as the audience, it's down to your sort of choice of what to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, the thing is, like, when somebody says I'm running a program from Jeff Nippert or Faz or Alpha Destiny or Jeffrey Verity Schofield, I don't, like, I wonder how mine compares to that. Like, I have trust because I trust these guys, and it's like, which muscle car do you want to take you do want to take on the road this weekend? It's not a case of me versus Fazlifts or me versus GVS or me versus, Jeff Nippard. It's more of a case of us versus the world versus the dung heap that is out there, and it is a dung heap of people that don't understand programming that just put it together.
That's such a good point, because we really still represent the small minority in the entire fitness industry of sane voices. So any disagreements with our approaches are both in the field of things which work. So yeah, for sure. I hope people kind of recognize that. In fact, I was going to message you the other day, Steve. We've been getting a lot less of the type of messages of, oh, Steve said this. What do you think of this, Faz? Faz said this. What do you think of this, Steve? We've been getting less of those. Right. So I think people are starting to back up on that now, thankfully.
Yeah.
I hope you guys just realize, yeah, like Steve just said, we are very much in the minority of voices which have sane programs. There are plenty of guys out there who will put together some God knows what rubbish generic stuff and try and sell you that.
I mean, I am not, trying to elevate myself or elevate Faz, but this is my life's work. This is what I've dedicated my life to. And I have different biases. I'm very mathematical in my programming. I see things as matrices and math, and that's not how I program everything, but that's kind of my view, which shapes my bias. But everything we do is tested in the real world, and we've mentioned this before. You have many coaches. Like, I think we've talked about this with Jeffrey Verity Schofield as well. When you see advice on social media, you can tell if a coach hasn't tested it in the real world. They're just pulling it out of their ass because they don't have the real world filter that me, you, GVS, Nippert, or anybody else has. So that's just something to think about. All right, let's get into questions here. Anybody that posts a question before 11 a.m. gets a chance to win a Massive Iron t-shirt or hoodie. So we'll pick one. I'll let Faz pick a winner today. And over on the Instagrams, I'm doing a flag giveaway. For every 10 comments, I'm going to give away a flag. And cool. If you want a chance at a flag, just head over to Instagram app and the Barman. You can also buy this amazing Buy My Frickin' Cookbook shirt and give me $2.
Great.
All right. Let's see if I can get sued. All right. HB. If you run an upper-lower split 4 days per week, can you drop barbell lifts on 2 of the days and still? Oh yeah, absolutely. You just always look at the big picture. What's it look like over the course of 4 days? Faz?
Yeah, 100%. I'm a big fan of machines. I'm fortunate enough to train in a really well-equipped gym, and I predominantly use machines for most of things that I do, and dumbbells. I very rarely use a barbell these days, unless it's for deadlifts. So yeah, 100%. The body only really recognizes stress. What is important is you have to feel secure and grounded when you're doing an exercise. So you have to feel stable. So things like obviously Bosu ball lifts are obviously nonsense, but other things like, for example, cable face pulls. If you don't have somewhere to actually anchor yourself, like your foot against the machine, that's going to be quite troublesome because you're going to be waving about because you have to counteract the weight. So you have to feel solid, stable, and be able to push hard or pull hard. That is what makes a good lift. Apart from that, your body doesn't really recognize where the stress is coming from. Would you agree with that?
The only thing I'd add is you want good lifts, and you want a lot of lifts that have a progression opportunity and an opportunity to continually challenge yourself.
Exactly.
Face pulls are a really good example. I think I tend to demonize a lift, but I just don't generally like it because of the reason Faz said, and because the more you progress, the more you have to kind of start to cheat it or leverage back. And it's really a balancing act. It's like lat pull downs in a way, Faz. Like lat pull downs cap out so quickly. You can go like boom, 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 boom for 6 months, and then you can be stuck at like 140 on the stack for like 10 years. It's frustrating. It's just, that's the way lat pull downs have always been for me. So anyway, yeah, you can run barbells one day, you can run dumbbells one day, you can run, say, barbell bench and dumbbell overheads one day, and barbell military press and dumbbell bench press the next day. Doesn't really matter. Just overall mix.
As a general rule, barbells will typically be harder to recover from than a good machine, as a general rule. So the stronger you get, the more likely you are to sort of pivot away from barbells and more likely to pivot towards machines. Otherwise, recovery will be hell. Like it's no secret why most pro bodybuilders utilize a lot of machines, because they're able to get a ton of stimulus without just hammering the joints. So it's one of those which it'll adapt on a spectrum. As you get older, as you get stronger, as you get more beat up, that you'll probably leverage more towards machines.
Barbells are the most punishing overall.
Yeah.
I hate to, toss out general statements, but they simply are. It's a
Yeah.
fixed bar. You have to contort under a squat to get into it. Like a hex bar, the center of the bar is over the center of your weight, your body, which is a little bit more user friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And the handles are neutral. I'm not dissing barbells, but
No.
you got to use other things.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? Assuming let's say you're a beginner, let's say you're still not at your advanced stage, then you need more stress. So you want more stress. So barbells are a pretty good idea. Assuming you can say barbell bench correctly and squat correctly and deadlift correctly, and you're still building the majority of your muscle mass, they're great. I mean, you want the added stress at that stage. Just at a certain point, they may represent probably a poor risk to return to ratio, if that makes sense.
People ask me, Faz, we'll move on to the next question here shortly, but people ask me a lot, how my philosophy's changed over the last 15 years. The biggest way is that I used to be barbell, barbell, barbell.
Okay.
Not that I didn't like dumbbells, but, my focus was always on barbells, especially with beginner programs. But the more I coach, the more I know with squats and deadlifts, we have to take time to get form down before we aggressively pursue progression. So those are back burner lifts for me now. Don't take that the wrong way. I'm not saying don't do them. But what I'm saying is if you're a novice, a beginner, you're going to get more out of machines and dumbbells because there's less of a learning curve. There's less of a central nervous system or neuromuscular, learning curve. You're going to get more out of that as your first 6 months. And in the periphery, in the background, we're working on squats and deadlifts to get your form up to speed so we can then run with them. So that's the biggest way I've changed in coaching people their first 6 months.
Yeah, that's my thoughts exactly. I think that's very well put, definitely.
All right, let's rock on to Paul from New Mexico. Paul's a Team Massive member. Do you recommend to stay at maintenance for a short period at the beginning and end of a cut or bulk? I'll let you tackle that one, Faz.
Yeah, Paul's a good guy. He's constantly sending me messages and on YouTube and stuff. So I do appreciate positivity, Paul. Yeah, I would. So yeah, I work with a lot of physique competitors. I do contest prep, and when you're at those extreme levels of body fat, you have to be a bit more careful when it comes to muscle retention. Now, I don't know the exact science behind this, and I'm not sure if anyone does, but there appears to be a lag in hypertrophic processes. So what that means is, let's say you've done a 20-week bulk. Now, at the end of your 20-week bulk, you've got a good amount of size on, blah, blah, blah. What I found is if people go straight to a cut at that stage, they tend to lose some of the mass they've gained towards the end of the bulking phase. I think it's perhaps because the hypertrophic processes take a while to solidify and concrete. Again, I don't know the science behind it, but this is just what I've seen anecdotally time and time again. If you've got somebody who goes straight from a bulk straight to a cut, they always tend to retain less muscle than if they just maintain for a period of, I've seen about 2 to 4 weeks. And I've got a lot of coach friends who coach competitors as well. And this is what we've kind of agreed upon. Roughly 2 to 3 to 4 weeks is a reasonable amount of maintenance time before you go to the next phase. So that's what I would suggest. Now, if you finished a cut going to a bulk, it's probably also a good idea to go to maintenance first, and an aggressive maintenance, so you can normalize your body. Let's assume you've lost a lot of weight, 20, 30, 40 pounds, like a proper cut. You may want to just hold weight for a while if you can. Now, the problem with the maintenance at the end of the cut is psychologically, you're going to want to eat. Right. So best case scenario, maintain for a while. Worst case scenario, just try and pull back a little bit and hold off the inevitable weight gain. Because you will be hungry. And often the thing that most people find is when they add food back in, they actually get hungrier. So yeah, hopefully I've not thrown a lot of you there, but that's my thoughts on maintenance, on cutting and bulking.
The only thing I'll add is like on a cut, I usually push people to go 5 pounds deeper than they want for that reason. So if
Hmm.
you want to go out and have a weekend, not abusive, but if you're like, shit, I haven't had beer in 2 months, I just want 2 beers and an extra sausage this weekend. Build in a little bit of room just to take a mental break. And after there are some weird things that happen after a cut that just can, like, everybody's so CICO, calories in, calories out minded, that they think everything's going to be mathematically aligned perfectly at all times. And I've dealt with some younger guys that they struggled to gain weight at 4,000 calories, but then when they would go into a cut, they'd have to take it to 2,200 to sustain weight loss. That's like an 1,800 calorie variance. And when they were done with the cut, we would start to back their calories up and they'd continue to lose weight. So on the way down, lowering calories, which we just couldn't get things to budge. We're very conservative, but on the way up, as we're scaling it back up, they continue to lose weight. So the point here is that you can get some odd things happening during a bulk or a cut, and we need to get that stuff kind of sorted before we just, So I think Faz and I are on the same track.
Yeah.
We probably just do things a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, logistically, it's probably the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but yeah, good question. I like diet questions. So yeah. Hey,
Stein, how's it going? Stein
Hey.
is the man.
Stein is
1 cent. Overthinking gave me mediocre, non-existent gains for almost 6 years. Yeah, that's one of the major problems. Just even with bulking and cutting, I think Faz would agree. Like, if I could just get somebody to continually do bulk cut cycles properly over 3 or 4 years, that would be a small miracle, right? Like, we're in the weeds right now trying to sort through optimization, when the bigger picture is like, shit, I just wish I could get somebody to do this for 3 years. So
I was talking to a client this morning, Imran. If Imran's watching, hey Imran, and he was just saying how nice it is to step off the roller coaster of chronic routine changing, which is just the death of progress. So we've made some amazing progress in the few months we've worked together, and it got me thinking that had I had a coach, or like a series of good coaches when I was younger, it would have been so much better for my progress. And one of the things you can never get back is time. Like, money you can earn, but time, you can never get that back. And so going out and purchasing some coaching and working with a good coach who can work with you is just invaluable. So yeah, it's always worth it. So it's why I believe in coaching so much.
Yeah, and I know this isn't something that the younger guys want to process, but it's something we're witnessing. I'll be 55 this year, Faz, and I'm seeing my peers dying. It started with David Clark. David Clark was a good friend of mine, and David was an alcoholic. He was 360 some pounds. He got down to like 160. He ran like 100 mile races, became a vegan, and wrote books. He was just successful in every way. And this don't focus on the veganism part, but the guy made every possible change, and then he just woke up one day for routine surgery, and something went wrong, and he passed. And then we have Bud Jeffries, and we have Jerry Ward. And like, I know the knee-jerk reaction is steroids or weight or what. We all got our own burden to bear, right? So time, man. I mean, don't fucking waste time. Excuse my honesty. Don't waste time.
No, don't waste time. Yeah. Such an important message. And it's just something that's more and more evident to me the older I get. Like, don't waste time. If you can shell out some coaching and hire a really good coach who can work with you for 6 months and just correct a lot of the habits you've been struggling with, whether it's diet or whether it's training, you've got that knowledge for life. That's going to pay itself over and over the course of your life. Yeah. Anyway, this wasn't supposed to be an advert for coaching, but like,
but here's the thing. Like, I wish somebody had said to me when I was 20, Steve, don't waste your money on supplements. Spend that on coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have got my lifts up to speed. I would have got my focus, at least I would have learned something that was better than weeding through, the bodybuilding.com forum in 2002.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like you and we got to experience the joy of actually improving our lifts though, Now let's face it, that's pretty cool. Like it's fun to gain strength and muscle and mass and all that stuff. That feels great. And we're just trying to teach other people to do that now.
Yeah, I mean, that is really what it's about. I understand the satisfaction and confidence and joy that comes from waking up knowing I'm a lot stronger than I've ever been. I'm going to get a lot stronger than I am now. Just getting results. That's what it's really all about. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah. And think about how many things in life make you feel really good. Like, like family, earning money, like sex, but training is right up there. I was in a gym today and it was an empty gym, just on my own. I was like, I'm feeling great. And like, you can't buy that feeling. It's great. Like, so yeah, love it.
Right. All right. Camille, ye boy. That was response to Faz will be joining me today. Okay, this one's from Juan on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And Juan had a long question. So, hey, Steve, it won't let me send a longer message, but I wanted to ask a question for your live. What essential micronutrients have you found to be the most effective for not feeling tired? And hold on a sec. Even with enough sleep, I feel sluggish, yawning during my workout. So I'm going to put that back up. I'm just going to lead really quick with number one, make sure you get outside. Get some time outside, not just for stress, but to get your vitamin D. Mm-hmm. Number two, maybe look at your diet. Some of the daytime sluggishness for me would come from the overconsumption of food and or carbohydrates during the day. So sometimes it's not necessarily micronutrients. And you might want to get your testosterone checked out as well, because I've always had lower testosterone, even though I've been a lifter. You wouldn't expect it to be the case, but that can leave you feeling like a zombie when you get up. So Faz, what would you toss into this?
So firstly, 100% agree with everything Steve said there. That's gold. Getting outside, fantastic. I think sleep, hydration, all that stuff is cool. Now, I did a video series on this topic. So I go to my channel and go check it out. And it was a triple series. The first of which was called "What Vitamins Should I Take?" That was what it was called. Now, in that video, I run you through how to check if your diet is deficient in micronutrients. And I prioritize what you should focus on first. So I think when it comes to micronutrition, there's kind of a hierarchy. Like a lot of the itty bitty stuff is just like, whatever. Like a lot of people focus on the itty bitty stuff before they focus on the big blocks. So first of all, we have, your macronutrients, protein, carbs, fats, all that stuff, right? After that, you have the next tier, which for me, I think is the electrolytes. So your sodium, your potassium, magnesium, calcium. And in that video, I show you how to see if you're consuming enough of those on a day-by-day basis. Now, electrolytes can make you feel amazing or make you feel horrendous as acutely as within a few hours. Like it's, if anyone who's done a prolonged fast will tell you, as soon as your body runs out of sodium and potassium, you feel horrendous, you get headache, you feel awful. And to make the point even more, the lethal injection is actually an overdose of potassium. So it shows you how quickly that will mess you up. So go check out that video. It's called "What Vitamins Should I Take?" And I go through with you in that video and show you how to assess your own current diet and see where you're deficient. That video will tell you everything. And there's also 2 more videos in that series which are related to health in general. So go watch that. And that's what I would recommend, focusing on the big 4 first and then moving on from there.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned what you mentioned, because immediately when you started to speak, I'm like, man, I got to talk on electrolytes, because one thing I've learned from running, and I didn't always understand it, and let me unpack this a little bit. When I was out running, I would eat some foods. I would eat, certain foods I found helped me feel better, like spicy tomato juice or combos, cheese, pretzel crackers. what I really found out more than anything while running is that while electrolytes were a good thing, sodium for me while running was the biggest thing.
Mhm.
If my sodium got low, I deflated. And sometimes the overconsumption of some of the electrolytes in these electrolyte drinks while running, I felt like they would make us sick. We'd almost be like overloaded on potassium or whatever.
Mhm.
And I don't, that's kind of set that aside a little bit. Electrolytes are very, very important when it comes to how you feel during
Yeah.
the day. And people do not understand this and do not take this seriously
I want,
enough.
yeah. I want to just go back to what you said there, Steve, because it's a great point. Overconsumption is super important. So, what I detail in that video is how to know what your levels are so you can supplement accordingly. What drives me nuts is when people will just blanket recommend stuff. It's like, no, check what you're consuming first. Because, like, for me and Steve, we consume a hell of a lot of fruits and vegetables. We don't really need to supplement potassium because we're getting a lot through our
Right.
fruits and veggies, like because we eat them. Now, this is why it's important to assess your diet and then decide what you need based on that. So that's a great point. Like, you're going to get anywhere from some to a lot in your diet. Assess what you're having and then supplement accordingly. The reason that sodium is almost always a good idea is because we sweat out sodium. We don't really sweat out a lot of potassium. That mostly comes out in our feces. So it's just one of those things. Sodium, we sweat out a lot more. We it out as well. But yeah, great point. Good discussion.
So I'm just looking at a screen here. Sometimes I post my meals online, and I add sodium to my mints every night. But as far as like potassium, there is a method to my madness when you look at my plant-based choices. I'm looking at the 20 top foods in, as far as potassium: potatoes, spinach, baby bok choy. You see me eating a lot of baby bok choy. White and button mushrooms. You see me eating a lot of white button mushrooms. Tomatoes, I eat a lot of those. Zucchini, I eat a lot of those. Broccoli's up there. I don't really care for, but you see me eating baby bok choy, zucchini, tomatoes, some potatoes. Very focused on my potassium intake just through my diet.
Yeah.
But I want to give you guys some homework. There was a video I watched this week about, and I forget the channel, but you can go search it. There's two guys that did a 7-day fast, a complete 7-day fast, and they monitored things, like a mood thing. They would take it like every hour and monitor the mood. And these guys were so reactive to sodium intake during the fast. Like, their mood would be in the shitter, and then they would take sodium.
Yeah.
Well, in some cases, more sodium than you would, probably have people, panicking. But all of a sudden, they'd be like, "Boop, back up into happy land."
Yep. I can believe it. Absolutely.
So, one lesson I learned is, and I'm going to try this myself. I've been doing a lot of fasting, back to more intermittent fasting lately, is having more sodium during the day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just
it helps a lot. I found when I did the 5-day fast, the first probably 16 to 20 hours, I didn't need any electrolytes. After that, I did. Then once I was past about day 4, again, I didn't. It would just go straight through me. So there are things that happen to your body during the course of those days without food. So you have to be very reactive, like Steve's saying. Yeah, I'm currently, how many hours? 22 hours into a fast right now. And I feel okay. I don't think I'm any less coherent than normal. So yeah, it's okay. And I've had my salt today and stuff like that. So.
All right, David. Hey, you and Fast. That's rad. Can't wait. I'm going to give a T-shirt Fast to Juan for this last question. So Juan Delgado, if you're listening, hit me up on Instagram, up in the barman. Faz, if any of these you feel warrant a T-shirt, just hit me up. All right, Big Spoon Bear. Do you think that the high rates of heart disease and people being overweight, we should be teaching people to be healthy sizes rather than massive monsters? Now, we're speaking specifically here, I imagine, in the powerlifting, bodybuilding, strongman, and just general lifter realm. So I'll let Faz go first.
Yeah, I sent out a tweet a few months ago, which is one of my most popular posts on Instagram, and it was something like this. It was bodybuilding culture, telling people to rest more and eat more in a society full of people who rest too much and eat too little. I'd eat too much.
Right.
So, so yeah, I get what you're saying, Big Spoon Bear. Like I get it. You know, some of the practices that pro bodybuilders use, and some of what is considered to be optimal, is perhaps not the type of strategy we should be employing. Like Steve and I have just mentioned, we do fasting. I'm 22 hours into a fast right now, and some people might say it's less than optimal. But then, for what goals? Okay, like my goal is to be healthy, and I like Steve mentioned. I mean, Steve and I have a lot of very similar thoughts on this. You can over consume energy to the point where, like, you know, whether it's carbs or fats or whatever, and just an excess caloric load, an excess energy load can be really bad. Like it can contribute to worse blood sugars, worse triglycerides, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, like I get what you're saying. And I think you have to be very clear on defining what your goals are. And then when you consume content on YouTube, you filter that through your goals. So it's all well and good. Like listen to Steve, listen to me, listen to whoever else, but filter our advice through your goals. So not everything is going to be applicable to you. And a lot of the stuff that I will say for maybe people who are like very underweight and trying to bulk might not be applicable to the same guy who's 100 pounds heavier and actually needs to cut. So you've got to have a laser focus on your goals and filter everything you read and you listen via those goals. So yeah, I think that's a great thing. I talk about health a lot in my channel.
I do not let clients, if I can help it, at the end of the day, everybody, you know, does what the hell they want to do, but I do not really want clients being over 240 pounds. I do not want people focused on bulk. I do not encourage it. If somebody comes to me for a custom workout or body composition, the first thing I try to do is get their weight down to 210, 220 at least if they're overweight. So we have some room to actually bulk maybe a little bit if we want to. This is something very, very important to me. In my time in the fitness industry as an editor, I came across a lot of peer mortality statistics. And this is just peer mortality statistics, weight, death. So there's a lot of factors involved. But one thing that is consistent, and we see this, and it's often misinterpreted, is heavy men dying. Wrestlers, lifters, even if they're in good shape. And it's not steroids, you know, come on. I mean, that's such reductionist nonsense. It's not steroids in every case, you know. But the more weight you carry, the harder the heart has to work to maintain that mass. And it's just simply not a good way forward. Men that are over 240 pounds on average lose 7 years off their life. Men that are over 300 or maybe over 270, 280 lose 7 to 10. Men over 300, it starts to become a crapshoot. You're looking at 10 to 14, maybe 20. So that's why men are dying, you know, in their 50s. You don't see men, heavy men, 300-pound men at age 70. It's like a dinosaur. It's rare. We need to take care of ourselves. And you don't need to be heavy to do so.
Yeah, and I'd say, like, in addition, the practices which are involved in being at those body weights over 300 pounds, etc., the eating habits, the exercise habits, all that stuff, which are conducive to being that weight, they also don't help you. So if you are 300 pounds plus constantly, you're pretty much always going to have elevated blood sugar levels. And if you have elevated blood sugar levels, you're probably almost guaranteed to have elevated triglyceride levels. Both of those things are going to cause toxicity in certain areas of the body, which are going to cause, like the hemoglobin, for example, it's encouraging your body to have strokes and all that kind of stuff. So it's not just the overall weight. So this kind of goes to the whole health at any size argument. Like, it's not just the overall weight, it's the practices which you do to ensure you stay at that weight. That's going to cause problems as well in your body. So yeah, I mean, to go back to the original question, like I talk about a lot, and I know Steve does on his channel, we talk about health a lot. So it's a case of, as I said at the beginning, make sure you are set with your goals. You have your goals, you have your ideal. By all means, listen to people, but filter it through what you hold to be what your true ideals are.
If you really want to, let's talk about inflammation real quick. Pounding your body with food, with bad choices on a daily basis. They don't even have to be what we would consider abusive levels, but just continuous leads to inflammation. And if you doubt that, try the 10-day lean and mean challenge I have over at superlivingtoday.com. It's free. I'm on day 17 or 18. I've lost 17 pounds, and it's getting super easy. But the water it's just water loss. That's inflammation, folks. That's not just water loss. Oh, I only lost water. You lost your inflammation. When we eat crap, even if it's a little bit of extra sugar or flour or, additives, preservatives, it causes inflammation. It can cause these, micro cracks in your arteries, veins, and that's where the plaque buildup, comes from.
Yeah.
It's like stretching a hose, bending a hose over and over again. So we can get into all the scientific end of things, but man, I want to say this, but I don't want to say this because I don't want to sound wrong. But the bodybuilding industry, I see a lot of big guys and big coaches. I'm not going to name names. Eat my Lucky Charms. It's okay. You can eat anything. Dude, you're 260 pounds at 5'6". You do not need to be fucking eating Lucky Charms. You do not need to be teaching people at 260 pounds eat Lucky Charms because it's okay to eat anything you want. I mean,
it's not. Food choices matter. Calories do matter. But you've got calories do matter, but food choices make a dramatic amount of difference with regards to how long you can keep this up for. The best example that I can give you guys is this is a bit of an extreme example, but it'll make the point. There's a guy around here, PT around here, who decided to do a contest, a bodybuilding show. Okay, now he's a guy who's always constantly talking about eating pizza every day. Okay, it's his whole thing. His whole coaching stick is around how to get people to eat pizza and chocolate and fit it into the macros. Steve, the kind of stuff that we were talking about 15 years ago, right? He's still banging on that drum. Now, he did a contest prep, and what happened, because he insisted on eating pizza and all that kind of stuff, he got insanely hungry and then just binged his way right through the competition and binged his way out of the competition as well. He looks worse now than when he started his prep. So what happened to his theory about, well, you can eat whatever you like. You can eat pizza. Didn't work out very well for him because, well, what happened? Well, what happened is his body was lacking in nutrition because he was just eating a bunch of crap with limited calories. He got really hungry for that reason too. So it wasn't sustainable. Food choices matter a lot. They matter massively. We can't just have this. We can't view calories in a vacuum and say that's all that matters. It's much more than that. Nutrition matters. I mean, we've spent 10 minutes of this entire discussion talking about micronutrition. It all makes a difference. It all matters. So do pay attention to it.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. And this stuff you're eating, just returning to fasting a little bit, in the last 3 weeks for me, all my hunger is gone. All the obsession with food is gone. I've removed, it's not just from fasting, it's from removing a lot of the crap as well. Yeah, what you do matters. We're not telling you to live like a monk. At my peak, when I was maintaining, I lived like a monk during the week, and on the weekend I'd go hike 10 miles and have 2 beers and have a burger. It's okay to have balance, but it's just this daily pushing of the button. It's okay each day.
Yes.
It's not okay. It's not okay.
I just want to repeat that because this is my stance as well, and it's such a good point. If you guys take nothing else from what we've said, right? Take this, okay? Try and be on, majority of the time. So that is making the right choices, making healthy choices, ensuring you have good nutrition, good micronutrition, everything, good macronutrition. Now, when you go off plan, which you will do, it's okay. So don't try and make everything part of your plan. Don't try and make pizza and chocolate part of your daily plan. That is the wrong way to do things. Have your plan, have the base of your eating, which is going to be fruits, vegetables, meats, all that kind of stuff, right? then when you go off plan, and I go off plan, just I'm human, I go off plan. I mean, what, it's Friday tonight, probably tomorrow I'll get a takeaway and whatever else. So, but when you go off plan, don't attach any guilt to it. The way to encourage poor eating habits is to try and fit every possible thing into your base plan. How about you just have a base plan full of good foods, and then if you eat extras on top of that, don't feel guilty about it. You just don't want to try and normalize everything. I think that's a horrible way of doing things. What I do encourage is when you go off plan, when you want that pizza, have the pizza, next meal, get back on plan. That is a much more healthy way of doing things rather than trying to fit everything in your plan every day. It's a horrendous way of doing things.
When I lost my 100 pounds, I didn't cheat for 2 years. Okay. That's because I was afraid I was going to die. Now, the way we live now is like when I have pizza, there's no shame. I enjoy it, man. I enjoy my wings. I enjoy my beer. There's no guilt.
No.
Because I know I know 90% of what I'm eating is structured and good and healthy. And what that does is it makes, when you stray, it gives it power. Like, it's truly a celebration. It's truly an experience. It's not normalized every single day. And the problem with normalizing bad food choices is that it becomes so routine and so nasty. Do you know how, like, I love eating pizza, man, but the next day I feel like a steaming pile of monkey shit, to quote The Rock, right? I do. I feel like crap, and we hate it. And my wife hates it.
Yeah.
I hate that feeling.
Yeah, and for you guys listening, trust me, it gets worse as you get older. Like, I'm starting to feel that way now. Like, I didn't in my 20s and 30s, but the older I get, the more I feel. If I eat pizza, I feel like garbage the next day. So yeah, trust me, guys, it happens. So if you hear us harping on about fruits and vegetables, it's for that reason. It makes us feel good. But I'll say this, and I think Steve, you would agree with me. I wish I'd done more of this in my 20s too. You know?
Right? Yeah, youth masks punishment. So, like, the biggest mistake anybody that's younger that's listening can make is think they're superhuman. That's just part of being younger. You can jump off shit and eat whatever you want, and right. But youth, like, it's like punching a brick wall. Yeah. Over time, it's going to wear your body down. Each thing is a chip. Each thing is a little chip out of your armor. And the only thing I can say to you younger guys and girls is, everything is a punch to your armor, and your armor is going to wear down if you keep punching it. So have a little bit, but don't abuse your body with physical activity. Don't abuse your body with food. Moderate that.
Yeah. Steve, we're doing the same thing we always do when you and I sit down together. Is we've been talking for ages. We've only gone through a few questions. We're gonna have to speed it up.
Well, I know your fiance is gone, and my wife is out shopping, so we could just go out and smash some beers. But all right, I just want to say, hey, long time no watch. I appreciate you joining in, Josh, Mr. Roids. What's going on, Roids, man? I'm not sure if you saw this, Faz, but Josh, a few weeks back, Josh posted on Jeffrey Verity Schofield's feed, and somebody went after Jeffrey saying, basically, why don't you call out Josh for being on roids, mega roids? Josh is like, I don't know, 157 and ripped, not exactly mega roids, right? But compound isolation ratio, it's not like that, Josh. It really isn't. It's kind of like start, the top end of the triangle is the big bulky things. And then as you go down, it's a little less physically abusive, but a little less progression opportunity. You start, you do the big foundation, and then you build up from there. So I don't know. It's not so much compounds and isolations fast. Like, I have people doing a barbell and dumbbell lift for presses, and then maybe a machine lift. So those are all compound movements, but they're not equal.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think if you were to ask me, I mean, if you look at my training on Instagram, I think everybody would agree it's very physique focused now. I'm not into powerlifting anymore at all. But you'll also notice I do very little isolation exercises. So to answer your question, I would say it's more about finding the exercises which work for the body part. So, like, I do include isolation work for my chest, but there's a reason for that. It's because I'm very tricep dominant. So whenever I press, there's a lot of tricep involved. So there are a couple of machines that I use which really help to emphasize my chest. There's a Nautilus chest press machine we have at the gym, which is great. Or if I'm doing dumbbell benches, they also work the chest quite well. But in general, if I try and leverage about 50% compound, 50% isolation for my chest. Now, if you ask me about my back, it's all compounds. Isolation stuff doesn't really work for my back. For my triceps, it's all isolation. Again, for the same reason, because I get a ton of tricep stimulation from my chest pressing. So I guess my point is you have to figure it out per body part rather than a top-down ratio.
Yeah, every body part is different. Some body parts like chest, I don't particularly care for cable crossovers. There's always some connective tissue weird feeling for me. And pec deck, I don't mind. I've done cable crossovers, don't care for them much. I don't like flies. So each body part is different. We always have to remember that. Back really doesn't have any really quality isolation movements. You give me a good pullover machine where I can really focus on my lats, and I love that. But still, that involves some tricep action. So it's really body part by body part. When I look at isolations or more isolation style exercises, I still want a little bit of room for progression. Biceps, dumbbell curls or pinwheel curls or easy bar curls. I want a little bit of room for progression.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I could list off my favorite exercises for my quads because it's a pretty narrow range now. Like I know what I like, I know what works for me, I know what gets me a good pump. So for quads, it's almost always going to be a squat machine, I'm quite fortunate in the gym that I go to. We have some really good squat machines. So there's a hack squat and a pendulum squat and a free squat, which all three of them I rotate between them. Then it'll be a good leg press. We have a seated horizontal leg press. It's the hammer strength one. If you ever used it, it's really good. The weight doesn't bear down on you. You've kind of sat down and it's horizontal. That's the only leg press I like using. And then I'll do a quality leg extension. But that's about it. So if I didn't have access to that leg press, it would pretty much only be a squat pattern and a leg extension. But that's what works for me. I mean, I could list off all different body parts, but it wouldn't really do any good. My point is just find the exercises that work for you and kind of work them. We seem to be saying that a lot, Steve.
Yeah, and when it comes to exercise, like find the exercise that work for you. Don't always just go on feel alone. Like I can feel it in my quads and this, but I can't feel my quads on squat, so I'm not going to squat. Well, that's not the only factor. Like I had somebody I'm working with that's like, I feel quads on this, so therefore I'm only going to do this instead of that. Like, nah, sometimes you got to do exercises that you don't have. Just because you don't feel an exercise doesn't mean it's not working an area. So
that's a really good point. I don't want to give anyone the wrong impression because that's a really good point. Actually, let me just go back on what I said a second there because I did talk about the pump, but it isn't only just about what feels good. I built a ton of mass when I was powerlifting, and that was from not really feeling much. Really, my back is probably my strongest body part, and that was all from deadlifts and weighted chins. And I can't say I really got much of a pump. My training is different now, but certainly when you're building up, like you don't always have to feel everything. Sometimes it just pays to like get a bit stronger.
Yeah, and when I started doing my first 10, 15 years of back work, I didn't really focus on feel. Now, I post a dumbbell row and somebody has a heart attack, but I feel my dumbbell rows at 200 pounds more than I felt my dumbbell rows back then in my back.
I think we have a good conversation at the moment. So there's guys like Landon from Basement Bodybuilding who talks a lot about the pump and the feel. And then on the other side of that, you've got guys like Paris from Bold Obney Man. Yeah. And they don't tend to emphasize that. They emphasize strength like Alpha Destiny does. So you have both sides of the coin. And I think it's one of those situations where we say all the time, as long as they're good guys in the space, they have proven methods, you've got to find out what works for you out of all that. And you'll naturally align yourself to one of those. As long as you're doing that with one of the good guys and you're not doing it with any number of the other type of idiots that are on the space, you're good to go.
Paul, absolutely crushing workouts thanks to BHU Meister and Fastastic. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Not joining Team Massive is killing your gains. Yeah, I made a killing your gains video. I can't stop. It's just hilarious. Everything's killing your gains, right? Oh my god.
Love it.
Raphael, the last 3 videos were killers. For sure helped me strengthen the mindset. I appreciate that, man. I really appreciate your support. Big Spoon Bear, great advice. Thanks. Appreciate it. The 6'5", 290-pound guys that don't see they are obese because they carry muscle worry me.
Yeah.
One of the major issues, and you see this, Faz, is bigger guys like, I'm 23% body fat. No, you're 43% body fat.
It is. People do it all the time. Like I was like, when I competed, I was a pretty big dude, and I competed on stage at 180. Like, people think they're going to be on stage at 200, 210. You're not. You trust me, you're not.
No.
Like 180. That was a big 180 as well. So yeah, you're going to be hard pressed to be like lean and shredded at 200, 210 unless you're on a lot of juice. It just doesn't happen. So like you mentioned, Josh, he looks great at 155, 160. That's great physique. So these guys who are walking around at like 290, 300, they are probably about 50% body fat, and they don't want to hear that. They'll say they're 23, 25, 20, whatever. But yeah.
So I would encourage, give you guys some homework. Find a local bodybuilding competition that's coming up, Natty, and go see it. Just go see it. Just skip past all the figure stuff because that goes on all day long, and you can't take it anymore, right? There's 800 classes of figure athletes and 800, But just go to the novice men's bodybuilding. Go to the not novice men's bodybuilding. Natty, we're talking Natty. You see a lot of guys under 170. I hate to break the news to you, and you know what? A lot of those guys don't even have really good abs. So just the way it is.
That's the thing. I mean, 80 kilos is 176. 176 is pretty big for, a guy on stage. So
it's big and ripped. Yeah.
It's big and ripped. Yeah. I'll tell you what was weird when I was dieting down for my show, like, you don't realize you hold body fat everywhere, like everywhere. You don't realize it's like just little itty bits between your muscles. I remember on the week that I was peaking, I could feel my hamstrings, and every single little bit of muscle in my hamstring was just kind of individually. Like right now, if I feel my hamstrings, it's like one big long muscle. But like every single fiber, I could feel it through my skin. And I was like, it was a really weird feeling, because you realize that you're actually only just a bunch of muscle and fat enveloped in a skin bag, which is a very strange feeling, because when you're that lean, you feel your muscles under your skin, and they're all like separated and everything. They just move around under your skin. It's a very weird feeling. But anyway, the point of that weird story is you will be surprised at how much fat you actually hold. The fat is everywhere.
Yeah, and one final point, breaking news for you big guys, and I'm speaking to you as a past big guy. You have a lot of internal fat, okay? You have a lot of visceral fat, and the first, getting rid of that inflammation in the first 20 pounds, that's a lot of fat around your heart and your liver and just internally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't just store fat, above the muscle.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
All right. Missed you too, KK. Thanks. Troy, one of my clients, tuning in from York.
I love York. York's great. Beautiful place.
Josh, what do you think people are so obsessed about complicating training? Control. I think it gives them a feeling of control, or it gives them a feeling like they're doing something. And I don't like to sound negative, but my whole message over the years has been simplicity. It's not that complicated. It's really about mental strength and being consistent. And man, I cannot stress nutrition enough. I have guys that are crushing it in the gym that could give 8 fucks about nutrition, and it's just. Excuse my swear, but man, come on, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think in terms of overcomplication, like one man's overcomplication can be another man's pretty normal as well. So we've got to kind of bear that in mind. I think one of the hardest things that I find with being on YouTube, and I've only been on YouTube for about a year now, all thanks to Steve, so thank him for that, is that it's very difficult to pin down your audience. So as much as I can, I try and aim my message at a particular audience. The problem arises when you have people tuning into your channel and the one video you've made that week is not applicable to them. Now, it could be either way too complicated or it could be not complicated enough. So I think the whole overcomplication thing, like, it's definitely there. Like, there's definitely a lot of people who build entire careers on overcomplicated things.
All right.
But in the midst of sort of the group of YouTubers that you guys probably watch, like me, Steve, and the rest of the good guys, I think there's probably it can be probably quite explained by understanding where you fall on the spectrum of complexity that you need. So as a beginner, you don't need much complexity. The stronger you get, you need a lot more. Like, I've got some guys on the books who are just insanely strong. A few guys who are stronger than me in my peak, and they need some complication. It has to happen at that level. So I think part of it, amongst the guys who know what they do, amongst the coaches who are good at what they do, is probably just due to wrong audience. Yeah.
So I'm going to give you guys some advice, and I want you to never forget this. And this is going to be one of the most important lessons you can learn. Complication can come from trying to take the advice or systems or philosophies of 5 different coaches and trying to combine them when they're not meant to be combined. Trying to follow 5 different coaches at the same time, even though their individual systems will be good, is like trying to jump out of an airplane with 5 parachutes. It's not effective. At some point, the best thing you can do is follow one coach at a time. That doesn't mean the other coaches are bad, but a system is a bigger picture. And if you try to use my picture and Faz's picture and try to combine them, if we tried to combine them, we could, but it would create a new entity, right? So part of the complication you guys are experiencing is that you're trying to combine systems from multiple coaches and mesh them when they might not necessarily work properly when they're meshed. Is that fair, Faz?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you guys a great example of this. So let's say you want to take everything to failure. Okay, you want to train everything to failure, or like, whatever, like close to failure. But then you go ahead and pick a super high volume routine. Right? You got one coach who says take everything to failure. You got another coach who's providing a high volume routine. Now you try and combine those two together. You miss the small print from the high volume routine, which says don't train to failure, and you miss the small print from the train to failure routine, which says do less work. So it looks like a contradiction, but it's not. It's 2 different systems. So the best thing you can do is follow the system as it is, okay, from the coach who set out the system, or better yet, work with the coach and do that for a while. Do that for 6 months. Do it for 12 months. Get a feel for what you think of it. Adapt it as you go through. But if you try and combine the 2, I've just given you guys a very common way that people mess up, and they'll take 2 concepts from one coach and from the other. They think they're unrelated, but actually there's a relationship there, and they're breaking the relationship by putting them together. So don't do that.
As a coach, I will tell you, one of the worst things we can hear is somebody adding something from somebody else's system, and we just kind of smile and take the boot in our ass. And it's not that it's jealousy or what, it's because everything I've done is structured. And if you don't buy into my system, if you don't buy into a system you're running right now, you're lost. You have to buy into what you're doing. And if you're not bought in, you better just run something else.
Yeah. When I first got onto YouTube, I used to get this a lot because obviously Steve and I work together a lot. We still do. But so when I first got onto YouTube, I used to get this a lot, and people would say, well, Faz, you're saying this. What do you think about this that Steve said? And it would be one of those type of situations where they would take a portion of Steve's program, which works within his ecosystem, and a portion of my program, which works in my ecosystem, and then try and pit the 2 together. So you, as a question, it's quite easy to ask. You say, what do you think of this? As an answer, I have to unravel the entire question. I have to say, well, Steve, within his ecosystem, that works. Within my ecosystem, this works for this reason. So it ends up being a very long, complicated answer, but the Solution is just the same, like Steve's been saying all along. If you're going to do a routine, just do it do it as it's written from a coach you respect. Don't try and mix things together. You're not going to get the best of both worlds. Trust me. If you're trying to mix a recipe for pasta in with a recipe for pizza, you're going to end up not with the best of both worlds. You end up with a pile of shit. So,
yeah, which has become fashionable these days.
Yeah, and then you'll annoy your coaches as well.
Yeah. All right, LB King. When I get home after the gym, I'm hungry, but I'm too tired to eat. Is it okay to crash? Yeah, it's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, you just want to be reasonable and listen to your body. What I probably would suggest is what I used to do, Faz, is I would have something that I could pound on the way home. Yeah. Like I would drink chocolate milk and a sweet treat of 200 calories. And then I would just go crash and then eat a big meal like 2 hours later.
Yeah, nice way to do things. Yeah, if you can do that, great. But also, you know what, bear in mind, if you're only working out once a day, it's the whole post-workout window. It's been blown wide open now. It's much larger than that. If you're only training once a day, just eat when your next meal is. I don't have a specific post-workout. I haven't had one in years. Just eat something. If you're hungry, great. If you can manage it, cool. If you're too tired, it's fine. Go take a nap. Come back to it when you're ready. It just make a massive difference.
The only problem you ever get into with things like the post workout window is people that try to be counterculture. Like, I'll show you, you don't need that. And then they try not to eat for 12 hours after lifting. Just listen to your body. Yeah. Whatever the case is, listen to your body. And that's a good start.
Yeah.
Do you believe in your drop 5 technique founded on your upper lower program? I'm trying out, intense but fun.
She popped a loo. I'll be right back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything I've put out, I've tried, myself. Everything is just, a tool. And if you don't like it, there are plenty of other tools. So, there are some tools that are more intense. Some people like more intense training. Some people don't. Some people like long grinds. Some people like 6-week bench programs. Vinny P, what's up, Vinny P? Much love for all you do. Thank you. And I'll be working on Vinny P's new off-season cycle this weekend. So I appreciate your patience. Do you cycle 7, 8, 9 RP for your? I don't do RP ever in my. I don't believe in it. It's not part of my philosophy. I don't believe people are accurate judges. I hate RP. I just hate it as a tool. I'm not saying it can't be used properly as a tool, but I don't ever use it in my philosophies. Giuseppe, great stuff. Recently recovering from gallbladder surgery, 1 month till gym time. Should I be eating lots more? Not really. Look, just eat normally. Don't do anything crazy. If you lost any mass from surgery, it's going to come back when you get back with the iron. Muscle memory is a real thing. So don't do anything crazy. You don't want to be gaining weight right now. When you start to go to the gym, you're going to be a lot more sore. Save those extra calories for that time. Real Ben, what's up? Morning. I really like to work back up to a handstand push-up. I used to be able to do 10 when I was 190. Now I'm 225 and can't. Should I just get leaner? Well, that's a good start. Anytime you're doing body weight stuff, like pull-ups or dips, weight is an important thing. I don't have any experience with handstand push-ups, but I can probably say 35 pounds is going to matter. Eric, how can I make further progress? You can hire us as a coach, or you can use one of our workouts, or watch every video we've ever made. How do I have to structure my training in the next phase? No idea what your phase is. Deload and way too many generic questions here, Eric. And I'm not trying to brush your questions aside, but I have no idea what you got going on, your age, where you train. This is like a car. I have to look at the engine to be able to make an intelligent analysis.
Yeah, I don't have a great deal to add to that. Like what Steve said is very, very general questions. I suppose the only one thing I would say, and I guess before you look at training, look at the other factors. So are you sleeping enough? Are you eating enough? Are you trying to minimize stress in your life? before you even start to look at your training, I think people start to try and optimize their training and complicate their training a lot more than they need to. I think a lot of times you just need to get the basics right. I mean, if you got a guy who's stalled on training and he sleeps like crap, he's not in a surplus all the time, he's constantly missing meals, he's not getting enough protein in, and he's doing a bunch of other fuckery, then, and he asks us, well, what can I do to change the routine? I can give you some ideas, but it's probably not going to master until you get the basics right.
So I just noticed Eric had an addition. How look progression in the long run under consideration to plateaus are, look, I hate the word plateau because it's a non-problem really. If you're sleeping right, if you're eating right, it's usually a standards or patience problem. It's not a plateau problem. If you're plateauing, usually it's not the workout, it's your sleep habits, your nutrition habits, your work ethic. Some people simply need a kick in the pants from a work ethic standpoint or a mental strength standpoint. So, like training, your progress will slow down over time. Once you reach intermediate strength levels, when you add a +1 to a major lift, that's like adding 5 to 7 pounds on your max. You're not going to get those every workout. You're not a newbie anymore.
Yeah.
You're going to get those once a month if you're lucky. It took me 15 years to add 50 pounds on my bench, and I'm not a fool. That's just normal reality. So, Eric, hang tough, get your sleep right, get your stress right, get your eating right, and just get in this for the long run. All right. Alexander, elbow cough, elbow cough, elbow cough. Thank you, Alexander. How much fatigue and pain should you have after a workout? It really depends on, what if you're a beginner and you go in and do a body part split, like you've never done a body part split and you're giving it close to failure and you've never done that before, you're going to hate life for a while. So, yeah. Excessive fatigue, not really. Muscle pain, it really depends. I don't know. Any thoughts on this, Faz?
Yeah, funnily enough, KK, I was actually thinking about this today. As I was driving back from the gym, and one of the things which I've changed my mind on over the years, and this is from before I started coaching, was this idea that pain is part of the game. I don't believe in that anymore. I think that attitude, while it did lead to some elite level performance for me, it probably also contributed to a lot of injuries. I think it was just on the part of my coach at the time, 12 years ago, it was just lazy coaching. I think you should respond to pain appropriately. I don't think pain's a good sign. You never, if you're getting connective tissue pain, for example, it's not going to get better. It's not like you've exceeded your tendon's ability to recover. So it's not going to get better, assuming you continue to do that over and over again. So I've changed my mind on that now. When I was a lifter, when I was at the peak of my powerlifting, pain was part of the game for me. I just didn't give a crap. But you can't have that attitude when it comes to your own training, your own body. I no longer accept that from my clients. If they say they're in pain, we adjust something.
Right.
So I think Steve kicked off with a good thing, a proviso about if it's very new to you, like you were a beginner, it's very unusual, then yeah, okay, it's going to happen. But let's assume you're the C of intermediate/advanced lifters. I don't think pain is anything you should try and work towards. It's a sign that what you've done has exceeded your body's capabilities to recover from that. In the it's just too much. So you really got to look at your programming there and pull back. Fatigue is like whatever. I don't know. Fatigue, I find it's not as much of a problem for me. What are your thoughts on fatigue, Steve?
Well, the only thing I've learned over the years is that cumulative fatigue, if I train hard 2 days in a row, and I'm not doing circus acts, trying to puke, trying to punish my body, but if I just give an appropriate effort 2 days in a row, I feel a little sleepy and sluggish on the third day.
Yeah.
So I don't like to train more than 2 days in a row. That's just me personally. When I was younger, I probably could, but I ended up beating myself up. Yeah. So fatigue, look, fatigue is something that can be highly individual. Some people are overly sensitive to fatigue. Some people are overly sensitive to pain. That's not a put down. Some people are hypersensitive to pain. I'm tired. I'm fatigued. I hurt. Everything. Like they tune in at like. if I focus on my body right now, I have a weak wrist, I have my pinky's numb. If I tune in, I got like 7 things, that aren't optimal, but I'm not like focused on that. I'm going to go work out, right? There's a difference between minor things and fatigue that's limiting or pain that's limiting. I do not allow my clients, if they express a pain, we react immediately. But like just fatigue, if you're experiencing excessive fatigue, either your conditioning is really, really poor and you probably need to dial down your workout a little bit until you can work on that, or you're doing way too much work, but not quality work.
Yeah, I suppose the gauge for fatigue is going to be how much does it affect, how much does it have a negative impact on your life, and what is acceptable to you. So when I was competing in powerlifting, I didn't care about any level of fatigue whatsoever. Whereas now, since I am doing the sort of entrepreneur thing, it's a lot more important. Like I need to be on it. So I guess the fatigue question, you kind of have to answer that yourself. The pain question, I think I'm a lot more certain on that. But the fatigue question, you have to answer yourself. Like how much are you willing to allow it to affect your life? Do you have kids? Do you have a job? All that stuff.
Yesterday, I talked about work capacity, and somebody asked, how do you increase your work capacity? And I said, by doing a little bit more than you want to each day. That's how you increase your work capacity for running or sports, but it can't be into the punishment zone.
Yeah.
When I'm out running, some of this is mental too. I mean, I worry more about mental, my mental health than I do physical, because your attitude and what you're willing to put yourself through and the limitations you put yourself on in the gym are more important, because I see many guys that just can't get in that lane where they're pushing themselves hard enough to get results. So, I don't know.
You and I have never really discussed mental health before on a video, so it's maybe something we should do a video about at some point, if you wanted to. But I think it's certainly a topic which would be useful because it's just relevant. Yeah.
And I'll end on this: top level powerlifting, I don't consider it a healthy thing, mentally or physically. Like, I'm not telling you not to do it. Okay, I did it.
Yeah.
But when I had 640 on my back, I had my phone right next to me, ready to call 911, because so many things can go wrong. And mentally, you need to completely shut it off and focus on your form, or something's going to go bad. And at that level where you have to be so hyper tuned in, because if you make a micro mistake, it's going to break a bone. That's kind of a rough road to run.
Yeah.
All right. I know Faz is into full body workouts. I've been running Why are you running Jeff Nippard's program? Go to the corner of shame. No, just kidding. And was difficult with fatigue. How many days? The 5 days a week thing,
it's hard to program that stuff, man.
Yeah, man. I have a drunk Russian program, but you have to use different lifts every day and not do a lot of volume each day.
Yeah, I did a video where I critiqued Jeff Nippard's 5-day workout, and I'm not a fan of it. But then it's one of those things, isn't it, KK? It's like, I think there are plenty of options on how to run a full body. I'm not going to be so arrogant as to sit here and think, look, my way is the best way of doing things. I like it. My wizard routine is received very, very well. And I don't utilize the same methods as Jeff. I think the way I like Jeff as well. Like, I made that video and everyone thought I was slagging off Jeff, but Jeff is one of the good guys. I think he is anyway. I think I like the guy. I think he's very intelligent. I just think his 5-day a week workout routine is not up to par, and it requires a lot more complexity in terms of macro organization. So you need to match heavy weeks and light weeks and stuff like that for it to make it work. For me personally, I prefer the way I put together full body routines, which is the heavy, light, medium system. So you have a heavy day, which is heavy work, which you can recover from, And like Steve said about work capacity, you'll build up your work capacity to enable you to do that. Also, I stay a little bit away from failure when it comes to those routines to facilitate you able to do more work. And then I follow the heavy day with a light day, which is kind of like a recovery day. Alex from Alpha Destiny uses GPP. I use a light day. Accomplish very much the same thing. And then there's a one or two medium days after that. I prefer that way. I find the light day is almost like a therapeutic day to recover you from the heavy day. The heavy day is one day where you got to go all out, usually on the weekend when you got a bit of time to chill. You could hit your routine Sunday morning or Saturday morning, spend the rest of the weekend on the couch and like just eating, right? And so I like the way that I've created things. It's the opposite of what Jeff's done. It's not to say Jeff's wrong. I just think, as I made the video and I pointed out, there are areas where I would improve and areas where there's a reason why people are struggling with fatigue like you are when they run Jeff's program. And I identified what those things are and how my full body approach fixes those. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a drunk Russian program, which is 5 days a week. And, you know, I made it way back when. It wasn't something I just did in response to a fad. I wanted to squat every day, and like I wanted to put on a weight on my back, like let's say 315, and do 4 reps on Monday, 5 reps on Tuesday, 6 reps on Wednesday, 7 reps on Thursday, 8 on Friday, and then add 5 pounds the next week. So around that, I started doing this drunk Russian thing where you might do bench 2 sets of 5 on Monday, push-ups on Tuesday, dumbbell bench on Wednesday for 2 sets of 10. Never really more than 2 sets or 1 set. So it was very moderate volume, weekly volume. But I don't know. I don't like training more than 2 days a week. I really don't. I really don't try to encourage that.
I'd say one last thing to what you said, KK. You said how many days a week. My full body routines always start at 3 and then they build from there. Okay. Because I think you have to build your work capacity. So you'll see in my wizard routine, in my wizard ebook, there is a section for advanced and how to add volume in. So I run you through a whole progression. I start with a very basic 3-day, then I expand the 3-day, then I add days. So it's a whole system of training. So yeah, I mean, check it out. I think it's well written. And as I say, I've identified in that video that I did why I don't like Jeff's program. Not hating on Jeff, I like Jeff.
Yeah, that's don't be afraid to be patient. And like if you're doing full body and you want to take the next step, move to every other day. Yeah. You know, that's 3.5 days. That's a small creep up. See how your body deals with that, and then kind of go from there.
There you go.
Aberrant. How does creatine affect kidneys? As far as my understanding, it does not affect kidneys unless you have an existing kidney problem. You know, I think that's pretty much the case for anything, as far as I understand it.
So from what I know of it, it will increase your creatinine level, which is a marker that they use to estimate your GFR, which is the glomerular filtration rate, which is basically a reflection of how well your kidneys are functioning. The problem is, though, creatinine is an indicator. It's not the definite it's not a direct reflection of your kidney function. A direct reflection of your kidney function is cystatin C, I think. So basically what I'm saying, Aberrant, is creatine will make a marker of kidney health look worse, but actually won't affect kidney function, if that makes sense. You can check your actual kidney function by using cystatin C. The cystatin C test is less common, so people normally just check creatinine, and they can figure out your GFR from there. But you can also figure out your GFR from your cystatin C test, which is what gives you a truer reflection. It's just that it's more expensive to do, so people don't normally do it. Hopefully that answers. Did that make sense, Steve?
Yeah, sure did. I was busy staring at this. I assume you're referencing Tyrone, the fitness addict. You know, when it comes to not buying programs, I would never buy a program from Tyrone. Have you ever seen Tyrone?
I've not.
Oh, Tyrone's a masterpiece, and he's a kid, and like he's making these protein shakes, and he doesn't know the difference between like raspberries and blueberries, and you think he's going to get his hand chopped off in the blender. The dude, he's like cutting things in the palm of his hand.
I've never seen it.
It's like watching somebody tightrope, walk a tightrope. We already did that one.
Yeah.
Any experience or thoughts about weighted static holds? You know, we've all bought when you're old enough, you bought the book. There's all these different build incredible amounts of muscle with weighted static holds of 10 million pounds, getting the weight in position or pressing against a wall. Look, my quick opinion, I'm a power builder. I like the gym. I like dumbbells. I like barbells. And I have no interest in pushing against walls or, doing any of that stuff.
You know what else? 20 years ago, in the advent of the internet, you used to get a lot of BS passed as actual muscle building advice. A lot. And that was one of them. It's just pointless, man. Don't do it. Don't do it to be different. Don't do it because it's a secret sauce. It's not. It's pointless. Do bodybuilding the way the rest of us do it. Decent range of motion, decent volume, work your ass off, eat food. You don't need this stuff. Like, this stuff is, as I keep saying, if it's way too far away from the generic what works, it's probably not going to be okay.
The only static holds I ever do are at the end of a deadlift or RDL or shrug set. I'll hold the bar maybe for an additional 5 seconds just to overload my traps at the end of a trap beatdown. But that is really the only thing I do.
I quite like that on back work. Yeah, just like putting a bit more at the end. Yeah.
What's going on, Neo? Neo is a client of mine. Paul, you're welcome, Paul. And Harut, got extra time and energy after a workout, like cardio versus pump work. I like to do finishers when I feel in the mood for finishers. Run the rack, run the stack, do some pump work. There's no harm in that. But really, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. Do what you like. This is like sprinkles on the icing on the cake. Any movement's good movement. Just do what you like. Any opinion, Faz?
Yeah, I'm the same as Steve with that. Like, me personally, I prefer doing weights. So whether it comes to a mix between cardio or weights, I'll just hit more weights. But yeah, if you got extra time and energy, by all means, add in what you enjoy. You can expand your routine, do a bit more volume, or you can jump on the treadmill, do some sprints, whatever. Yeah, burn off your energy. Cool. But
probably the best thing to do to keep the calorie burn going is to find the sexiest critter on the treadmill and just stairmaster, just cozy up next to her and be a stalker and say, hey, how you doing? How's your workout going? And get yourself kicked out of the gym or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I re-downloaded YouTube to say hi. I appreciate it.
Hey, dude. And congratulations again on finishing your exams. Hopefully let us know how you did. So yeah, good on you, man.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. I'm slated to get 100,000 subscribers around October 4th. And that's 9 days before my birthday. So whenever I say this, usually somebody unfollows me just to spite me. But please subscribe to my channel.
Your channel's going to fly. Once you hit 100K, it's going to go, skyrocket.
Great. Wait till I get shredded at 60. Osama, how's it going? Appreciate you joining in.
Yeah, I follow Osama on Instagram. He's a nice guy.
But I had to check out the avatar. I almost skipped past that. You reckon the moon landing was faked?
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. Like I heard, we wanted to mess up the Russians or make them waste a lot of money on, I don't think so. I think we're good.
I have no idea about any of that, dude.
The government can't even figure out how to, do anything effectively. I don't think they were on track to fake. I mean, Area 51 was their biggest, information infiltration, making up some fake alien stuff to distract us. I think the government's good at distraction techniques, but that's way too large scale.
Yeah, I'm not a very big conspiracy theorist guy. I guess the only thing I would say is it's highly unlikely that we are the only sentient beings in the universe. That's quite a white thing. I don't have any proof, but it's highly unlikely.
So speaking of conspiracy theories, I posted in Insta stories yesterday about the UN telling us that we're going to do a war against conspiracy theories, and that the major powers in the world weren't secretly plotting against us. Like, okay, thank you. You're a major power in the world. I'm going to trust that. So anyway, HB found out this week that I enjoy training at 9 p.m. Is there an ideal time? No. I mean, on paper, your central nervous system is more awake and aware 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon. But you train when you enjoy training.
Yeah.
When you have good sustained energy and you can get it done focused.
Yeah, I mean, just make sure it's not affecting your sleep. If you train at 9 p.m., you might be too hyped afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, just train when you can fit it in. It goes back to what Steve says about sustainability. You've got to be able to make it work for your schedule.
I hate training in the morning. Sometimes I do it anyway, but and look, when I train in the morning, um, from like 9 o'clock in the morning to like 1 in the afternoon, all I want to do is eat. So regarding the health series by Faz, why were your micronutrient rates higher than
Let me answer this. Because 3 Days Grace asked me this twice, and I forgot it twice. I'm so sorry. He asked me on 2 of my Q&As, and I kept forgetting. It was not on purpose. Right. It's because, like with most micronutrient RDAs, they're based on the government recommendations, which are a decent amount, but they might not be enough based on what we know from the research. So my micronutrient requirements are, from what I've seen in the research, to have benefits for satiation as well as for health. Also reflecting the population, which is generally physically more active and generally physically bigger. That's why it's higher than RDA. It's kind of like the RDA for protein compared to what we recommend protein as for building muscle. So there's a difference with micronutrition too. Like, I'll give you a quick example. Magnesium, or the RDA, is about 300 milligrams. But knowing what we know about magnesium and its role in the body and its role in training and all that stuff and sleep and relaxation, it's better to have more. So I set my recommendations about 1 gram, which reflects what we know from how much we consume magnesium on a daily basis in terms of training or just being a bigger body weight. So the reason I was so embarrassed by that, because he literally asked me 3 times and I forgot. But the reason that I guess I missed it off my head is it was such a simple answer. It's just simply, it's like protein intake. It's more than the RDA because we need more than the RDA.
Yeah, the same can be said for sodium. Too many athletes or lifters avoid sodium.
Yeah.
Or if I eat something with high sodium, you're going to die. Like, do you have any idea how much sodium I sweat out during a 2-hour run? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, that's why. Hopefully that makes sense now. It's a really easy answer. It's simply because we're just bigger, more active.
My backpacks and my running packs, there were races, Faz, where 12-hour runs during the July heat where I used a backpack and I set it aside for 4 months and came back and the salt actually welded the zipper shut. That's a true fact. That's not exaggeration. I don't know. I don't do this magical pump chasing stuff. I don't want my blood pressure being messed with. I don't want my blood composition being messed with prior to a workout. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a paranoid old man, but I don't chase the pump. And I'm not going to add sodium pre-workout to do so. I'm sure there's upsides to it, Faz. I don't know, but it just makes me a little bit nervous. I don't want my blood pressure extra saucy before a workout.
Yeah, look, I mean, from my perspective, I answered this before. Go check out my video on what supplements you should take. Go plug your numbers in the way that I describe in the video and see what you're consuming yourself. If you add extra and you're already getting enough, it's going to mess you up. In the same way, Steve said he doesn't supplement potassium. He doesn't need to. He eats plenty of fruits and vegetables. Neither do I. So figure out what you're having before you increase it. It's kind of like asking me, should I take a whey protein supplement? Well, how much protein you're having from your chicken and your beef and your eggs? I'm getting 200 grams and I weigh 200 pounds. Like, okay, you probably don't eat the whey. For me, it's this type of question. It's not going to provide any benefit if you're already consuming enough, but you need to know what you're consuming first, which is what my health series was about. So go watch that.
All right. I'm 6 foot, 176. Is that too low? KK, I want you to do a little experiment. Okay. I want you to go to Walmart and I want you to see how many fit people you see. How many people that look healthy? How many people that look like they take care of themselves? Is that too low? No. Obviously we could get into what's your body composition, what's your body fat, but look, you're following this channel. Obviously you take care of yourself to a reasonable degree. So if you were 6', 124, I would probably say, yeah, you need to bring your weight up a little bit. But there's nothing wrong with your height and weight.
No, you're fine, dude.
Add a little bit more muscle, get a little bit juicier, till people start asking you what you're taking, megaroids, and then
Yes.
change my PPL to upper posterior or some extra smaller exercises. Is it okay to do a 5-mile run? Yeah, man, I did 10 hours a week. Do what you love, guys. Do what you love. Do what you love and adapt on the fly. Do what you love and adapt on the fly. Is push-pull legs, upper lower, the most complicated program ever? No, not at all, man. No, I've seen some. I've made programs that I'm embarrassed by their complications. Way back in the naive days, like 25 years ago. Oh man. Faz, I asked you if you ever heard of Trevor Smith and demon training.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do a video on this real soon. Trevor is no longer with us. Trevor made Ronnie Coleman look like a small little butterfly. I mean, Trevor was like 4'11" in off-season bulk condition, and he was juicy. He wasn't fat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But Trevor had this style of training called demon training, where it's like, okay, train to failure is just the start of the journey. After that, you have this whole fiasco of stuff. And I'm getting a brain aneurysm just thinking about it. But I've seen some pretty complicated programs. Mm-hmm. Megaroids is back. Megaroids for all, right? Megaroids for all. Richard from Scotland. Love it when the mega powers of strength. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, man.
Would you just guess RPE depending on how? Look, RPE is not a part of my philosophy or training system. I have nothing against it. It's not a tool that I teach, coach, or really use. So
it's not something that I don't use RPE. I do use RIR. My general rule of thumb for this is I want you to be able to do a decent amount of bodybuilding work, because for bodybuilding, volume is important, so a decent amount, not like an excessive amount. So you've got to be able to do a decent amount of volume. Now, if that decent amount of volume leaves you feeling exhausted and not able to progress, and you have the rest of your factors in check, it can point to the need for slightly lower RIR, slightly higher RIR, so slightly lower intensity, to allow you to do more volume. It's really that simple. It's not, don't overcomplicate things. It's just saying to yourself, look, if you're knackered on what is a reasonable amount of work, you're probably pushing the sets too close to failure. And as long, assuming you have everything else in check, you're just pulling back a little bit. That's all. Like, remember, the goal of training is to build muscle. It's not to work hard for the sake of working hard. Like, it's to work intelligently. So I don't adjust RIR. Like, I will say to most people, go about 1 or 2 RIR. That usually facilitates enough volume. We start there, and then we change things. For guys who respond better to a little bit less volume, maybe have a little bit less time, we will make them work a little bit harder. For guys who've got a bit more time and maybe they're very strong, they have more of an injury potential when they train very close to failure or to failure, pull them back a little bit. You've got to view it like that. You've got to adjust things. I wouldn't adjust on a day-by-day basis, though. That's not the way to do things.
No.
Do a block of training and figure it out from there, and then adjust and just systematically change things and just view them as variables. Take the emotion away from it. One of the reasons why these discussions are so hard to have is whenever it comes down to intensity and working hard, people get very emotionally involved because nobody likes to be told you're not working hard, right, or whatever. Like, everyone, there's so much emotion involved in these discussions. I hate it because you can have a rational discussion about volume, but you can't have a rational discussion about intensity. It drives me up the fucking wall, frankly. Sorry for the language. Like, it's just one factor in training. That's all it is. If your workload, if your recovery factors are in check, you're sleeping fine, doing all that fine, it's fine. You're doing a reasonable amount of volume and it's exhausting you and you're trying to work to failure or beyond, just pull back a little bit and see if you still make progress. If you do, congrats. Just take the emotion away from it. It drives me up the wall because intensity is the one thing. And I get it a lot around here because where I'm from, I'm an hour away from Dorian Yates' temple gym, and everyone around here is just like intensity. Go to one set to failure, beyond, kill yourself, rip your muscles off the bone. That's the way to do it because that's how Dorian did it. It's idiotic. Like,
Right.
just pull back a little bit so you can do a decent amount of volume. Like, that's it. It's all it is. Yeah.
So you have a plan and you go in the gym and you follow your plan. Fuck your feelings. Okay. Number one. Unless there's a reason to pull back on your plan for that given day, you follow the plan. You don't adjust it on the fly because we can't trust ourselves, right? We cannot trust ourselves. I've woken up feeling tired, 4 hours of sleep, feeling like crap, feeling weak, and crushed PRs over and over again. So don't worry about how you feel. Trust the program unless something's going on or you're short on time. What I tell my clients is, if you are short on time or feeling off in any way, cut a set from each exercise or even cut it down to one set on any given day, but make that set count and move on. But you got to stick to the heart and soul of your progression approach, not just when you feel like. I don't like the word feeling in training. If there's a variable that's wrong or out of place, then we have to make an adjustment. But just because you feel tired or feel stressed, it doesn't mean you're not going to have a good training day.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary. So just look at what Steve said there, right? So Steve is responding to a client being either tired or, whatever, and basically not being able to recover by reducing volume. What I'm saying is you respond to that by dropping intensity. Both of us are solving the same problem. So there's no mismatch between what we're saying. Steve has one strategy, I have another. Neither is better. It's going to depend on you. I mean, it's unfair to say Steve has one strategy, I have another. Like, we both use both strategies. But the point is, we are responding to the problem.
Right.
And there are a couple of different ways you can respond to that. Now, what's best for you may well be individual. You'll have to find that out yourself. So but what we're doing is essentially the same thing. We are reducing stress to allow you to gain again, if that's the problem.
And Josh, I'm sorry, you're 168, not 155. My apologies.
That's good.
I just remember it was well within the natty ripped range,
Yeah, dude, you look great. How tall is Josh?
I don't know, but I mean, it's ridiculous for people to call Josh megaroids. Like, it's funny, the leaner you get, the more megaroids you take. Like, sharing success, I hit 180 by 11. Nice work, man.
Nice, dude.
That's good strength and good strength endurance.
Yeah, good job, man.
You say that lifters can get, I don't say, me, yes, 30, 35 pounds of muscle on average, but Mike Israel says this range is more like 10 to 50. No, that's not true. No lifter can gain 50 pounds of muscle naturally if they're starting from a normalized body weight. And 10, yeah, you can take it as low as you want. There's every guy in the gym has gained, 5-7 pounds of mass. But what we know from look, if you take an average lifter, I've only gained about 30 pounds of muscle in the course of my life. If I gained another 20, it would be megaroids, So I think I don't know the context of what Mike's saying. It could depend on underweight individuals, because underweight individuals, everything is underweight: muscle mass, bone density, just everything's, blood volume. So yes, underweight individuals can gain more. And every time I mention this, 30 to 35, someone's like, I was underweight. No, I gained 30 pounds. No, you didn't gain 30 pounds of muscle. You gained 30 pounds of stuff, but it would depend on the context. But a man that is coming into the game, let's say 180, 15% body fat, they're not going to gain 50 pounds of mass. Not even the outliers. It's just not happening.
Yeah, I'd like to see the original quote before I, if I was going to answer this question. I don't really know the original quote, what Mike said. I don't like to answer questions when it's like, right, this guy said this, what do you think about that? It's like, I want to see the original quote. So sorry, I can't really answer that.
Yeah. Because a lot of times on these things get pulled out of context. Yeah. And I've had other fellow coaches come after me when I didn't understand the context for speaking out of my ass. So I'd have to see the context. Other exercise non-responders, I'm going to tell you this. In coaching, I see far more people who don't have the drive to do what it takes to get to where they want to go. And that's not a criticism, but it is not easy to go it's easier to get the first 10 to 12 pounds of mass than it is to gain the last 20. It is not mentally easy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
If you do things right, I don't think there's non-responders. I don't know that Mike actually said that. Maybe light responders, but
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I like Mike. I think he's one of the good guys. So yeah, it's just I'd need to see the original quote. But just to add on what Steve said, I've never come across a non-responder. Never once.
No.
It doesn't physiologically make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense from any. It doesn't make any kind of sense for whether you believe in religion or evolution or anything. Like, it makes zero sense to have a non-responder right now.
And most of the people that think they're non-responders are just, I'm going to be honest here, they're weak mentally, they have no drive, and they're absolutely full of shit. And they're not doing what they say they're doing. They're not eating what they say they're eating, and they're not training how they say they're training. And I would bet a testicle on that. And that you give them to me for 2 months, and they do what I tell them to do, and all of a sudden they're a responder.
Yeah.
All right. Bilal, much love. Got the sickness today. Fingers crossed.
No.
I'm glad you didn't say the C word. Knee W. Oops. There we go. Knee sleeves make my knees feel better. Could elbow sleeves? Maybe. Everything's different. Everything is kind of compartmentalized when it comes to that stuff. I've never used elbow sleeves. There's no harm in trying them.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of either knee sleeves or elbow sleeves anymore. I'm not a fan of them at all for general training purposes. I no longer use knee sleeves myself. I've improved my knee health from the time when I was competing in powerlifting by strengthening them in a full range of motion. So I do full range of motion hack squats, full range of motion pendulum squats, full range of motion everything. I don't need knee support anymore. My knees feel great. So I think more often than not, people use them as a crutch for ineffective training practices, usually too much volume, too much load, too close to failure, too soon. As a general rule, I don't think it's a good idea. It's fine if you're a powerlifter and you're trying to get used to the equipment, but for a general trainee, if you don't have any kind of chronic condition which has been diagnosed by a doctor, more often than not, you're just weak. Now, this is something which I think people need to bear in mind. Like, you don't have sore knees because some dysfunction in your knees. A lot of times your knees are sore because they are piss weak in that range of motion. People don't like to be told that, but it's true. Like, if you've never sunk a squat all the way down to the bottom and all of a sudden one day you decide to sink it and you hurt your knee, you didn't hurt your knee because of the depth. You hurt your knee because you had no strength in that range. You were weak in that range. You asked the body to do something you had not trained it to do. You were weak. That is very different from saying depth gives me sore knees. So strengthen your knees for a full range of motion is the best thing you can do for knee health. And that's true for elbow health too.
According to your philosophy, how hard would you train each set? According to my philosophy, each set is different, and that's one thing I preach. I'm not being dismissive, but it's the context of the whole program, what we've been talking about in this video a lot. There's no blanket. I'm not a black and white guy. I'm not every set has to be like this. And I preach that over and over and over again on this channel. I don't like black and white. My clients, some of their exercises, they push every set for max safe reps. Some of them, they're leaving at least 2 reps in the tank on specific exercises. Some we only do 1 exercise max safe reps. So I don't have a generic rule for each set. Josh,
same answer for me.
Sorry, Fez.
No, just saying, same answer for me.
People say to reduce stress. Is my wife killing my wife? I will say this, Josh. I love my wife, but if I knew then what I know now, I probably would. I probably would never got married the first time. Yeah. So, I probably would just be, smoking cigars, watching baseball games, and lifting. But
yeah,
I got a good partner now, so it all depends on what you have.
I mean, Josh, you're looking good, so maybe maybe your wife's not doing a very good job in killing your gains. So
Yeah, your wife, your wife's not killing your gains.
yeah.
David Harrison, love the crush, the arms, push pull leg split. I followed it and separate try and by day, keeping the same recommended programming. One thing I started doing more and more, Faz, not often, not on everybody, but incorporating like a junk. Arm days are like arm days. We can't do that because we aren't like we're better than that. But I find in certain circumstances, adding in a junk day, like where you do a little extra tricep work, maybe rear delts, maybe calves, maybe abs, maybe if you don't have time to do traps, kind of having a day where you can put in all the extra pieces in the box can sometimes work for different people.
Yeah, for sure.
Progressive overload causes hypertrophy, or hypertrophy causes progressive overload. Chicken and the egg. I will say that without the egg, there's no chicken, and without the chicken, there's no egg. Faz?
Yeah, so I think you have to separate the terms. So there's chronic progressive overload, and there's acute progressive overload. Okay, so acute progressive overload is what you do during a session to enable you to give the body a stimulus it's never seen before, with the hopes that you are going to improve for next session. And so that could be adding more load, could be doing more reps, your plus ones, like Steve says. Now, the concept of progressive overload on a sort of a larger scale is the philosophy that to get bigger and stronger, you need to do more over time. So there's no, you have to separate the two. There's acute, which is what you do mechanically to induce more stress on the muscle. And then there's the general philosophy, which is, do more over time. And if you look at things that way, it's quite simple to understand, really.
I'm more of an attitude guy. Like, I wasn't like, I was never chasing end strength. I always wanted to get what I could out of a set, and one of the markers was, how many plus ones did I get? It's not the plus ones I was chasing, but the plus ones were a tool to, like, we opened the door too many times to be able to let ourselves out. Like, we leave the door open. And for me, it's more of an attitude. I don't want to leave the door open. I never, ever, ever, ever sat down and said, I want to get a 315-pound squat. Never. What I wanted to do was go in and be better than last time. But not only that, but to make everything in the set count. Like controlling the weight on the eccentrics. You see a lat pull down and people like flailing and no control. Like, I'm more old school. I didn't do slow reps or time reps, but I want to get everything out of that set I could, and so there's some other layers and dimensions to this, it's an attitude. Like, I am not going to leave the door open to myself to stabilize, That's more of the bigger attitude for me. That's progression for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%, definitely. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Sam. I think the debate at the moment seems to be centered around the difference between sort of the overall philosophy of hypertrophy, which is kind of what Steve's describing there, versus kind of, I think what he's asking is, he's viewing progressive overload as a result of your training practices. So when Steve is getting his plus ones and he's doing his training and he's training hard, all of that is going to create hypertrophy, which is going to mean he'll be able to add a bit of weight onto the bar next time. I think that's kind of what Sam's getting at. Yeah, I mean, I think that point has kind of been beaten to death by now. Yeah. Yes, I think it's both. It is firstly the process of demonstrating, like, you've gotten stronger. Like, yes, great, I can do 5 pounds more this week. It's because I grew enough to do that. And then it's also what you do during the course of the session to say, you know what, I'm going to impose a stress on the muscle, eventually get bigger and stronger over time. Ultimately, though, like I find, Steve, it's one of those discussions which is very much like it's one of those pseudo intellectual kind of discussions which doesn't really add much to to the whole argument of building muscle. Like, you got to train hard, and then there's always going to be somebody who goes, "Oh, well, actually, progressive overload is the result of hypertrophy. It's not the cause of hypertrophy." It's like, okay, but like it. I'm not having a go at saying, by the way. It's just, it doesn't add much to the discussion. Like, it's one of those like actually moments. It doesn't practically add much to the discussion. But yeah, it's a fair point. You know, if you don't get bigger, you're probably not going to get stronger. You know, so whatever.
You ever been in the gym fast and like you bench like 195 by 7 and the seventh rep feels impossible? And you know, like you'll have a client that's like, the seventh rep's impossible. I don't know if I should move up in weight, even though the progression indicator said move up in weight. It's like, and then you go in next week and you move up to 200 and you hit 7 again. And the seventh rep was easier than the last time. Like you know, it's hard to scale these things, and we can try to plan and figure out and plot how things are going to work. But at the end of the day, it's really the effort that is the important thing for me. Sustained effort over time, and trying to get everything you can, playing that mental game. And there are guys that have turned hypertrophy just simply into a game of, I got to get to certain strength levels and that'll be big. Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of guys will come to me like, I got my squat up to 275 and my bench up to 225 and I'm not that big. Well, the real bulk of the size comes from the real bulk of the strength, you know, getting your strength up to a certain level. But the mental fortitude it takes to push, once you've built an okay base of strength, that becomes super challenging mentally and physically. But that's where the big payoffs come.
Definitely.
All right. If you can't pick up the same as last week before, are you working too hard? No, it just happens. Look, I used to have it before I ever got on the internet. I'm like, I told myself 1 hour every 4 workouts is going to be crap. I would get on 1 week and just lose a rep. There's so many systems in the body. Plus, your CNS might be off. Your immune system might be down. You might be a little bit low on glycogen in your muscles from work. There's so many things going on. So just continue to always look at the big picture. Fast.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Steve said there. I'll bring you back to a story 20 years ago. So I was a young lifter. I was lifting. I can specifically remember I was stuck on a 200-pound bench, a 350 squat, and I think it was a 450, maybe 500 deadlift. And I was a competitive powerlifter for a few years, so I was trying. And what would happen is I would keep stalling. So basically, I'd go to the gym. Like yourself, I couldn't pick up the same weight as before. So I'd go from being able to deadlift 4 plates, 5 plates, to be able to not even be able to pick up 2 plates off the floor. And this would happen on a regular basis, or I would get ill, or I'd pick up little injuries. And I emailed a guy called Dan John, who you all know. He's a coach out in America. And this was in the early days of the internet, you know, when you didn't really expect to get a reply. And I emailed him, and he emailed me back a few hours. And he said, what I want you to do, Faz, is I want you to go through your training log, and I want you to see if you can spot a pattern as to when you're training fine and then it all goes to crap, and then report back. I was like, okay. And back then I had all my paper logs. So I went through all of them for the last like 6 months, and I saw a pattern. And for me, it was every 3 weeks, everything just went to crap. So I emailed him back. I said, Dan, this is what I found out. Every 3rd week, I either get a cold, or I get an injury, or I just can't lift very much. He goes, okay, so what I want you to do, Faz, is I want you to deload every 3rd week. So I was like, okay, cool. And so I did that, and that led to the biggest run of strength that I've ever had. I went from a 350 squat to a 500 squat over 18 months. I went from a 200 bench to a 330 bench over the same 18 months, and a 450, I think it was 450 deadlift, to a 550 deadlift over that 18 months. And that was it was my first look at what programming was, like complexity of programming. Before then, it was just sets and reps and a routine that I did. But that was the first time that helped me. Now, years back, later I can look back and tell you why it worked, but I won't get into that now because it'll take too long. But the point is that was a strategy that I employed, and it was something that helped me at the time. And there's reasons why it helped me. Again, I won't go into that now because it'll take too long. But it was why I've always been fond of deloads. I always will be fond of deloads because they took me, and Dan John's advice took me from those strength levels as an intermediate to firmly to an advanced lifter within 18 months. And that was the only change that I made. So yeah, just a bit of a story then. I mean, your example will be different. Your needs will be different. And as Steve and I have said throughout this last couple of hours, you've got to just be reactive to your own program.
So, what I said open, like every fourth week, I expected a bad workout. If I would have gotten Dan John's advice back then, I probably would have stuck to it. It was probably the same thing going on for me. Now, somebody's going to say, Steve, you're not a big fan of planned deloads. Well, this is where you guys think me and Faz are like this.
Yes.
But it's not the case. And let me explain. Most of you need to ramp up first to proper training, not being critical, but you need to get to the level where you're doing proper training like Faz was before you can start to worry about deloads. If you're in Faz's level and then you're training consistently, seeing good results, then we can start to worry about things like that. Then we can start to worry about things like concurrent periodization. Then we can start to worry about things like adding an exercise variation. So it's what I basically do on this channel is try to get you guys up to speed. Then getting lifters up to speed is 95% of the problem. Yeah. And once you're there, then it's a whole different set of rules. Is that fair, Faz?
Yeah. Imagine if we set a deload for a guy who wasn't training that hard. It'd be a disaster.
Right.
He'd just spend even more time relaxing than he is.
That's why I used to hate 5-3-1 back in the day when it was like deload every fourth week.
Exactly.
Like, you guys aren't even training like with the intent. Like, you don't need to deload every fourth week.
Exactly. It's like, not to go off on this too long, but it's like I was saying this earlier on. This is one of the difficulties I've had in YouTube. It's being able to give the right audience the right message at the right time. It's so hard. So I try and provide as many provisos in my video as possible. But you see in a discussion like this, like what seemingly might be one coach saying something opposite to the other one, we both agree because it's within the context, within the example. The advice is specific within that example. So I just urge people to try and make sure they're viewing things from the lens of their own experience rather than trying to just match things together.
With my clients, I am super reactive to what they have going on. So back off, changing exercises, walking away from exercises temporarily, taking time off. I tell them add extra rest days in when you need them. All the time. That we have to kind of be adaptive on the fly. And it's not just with planning deloads, but it's just on a day-by-day basis. Mm-hmm. Ryan, full body 3 times a week only works if you aren't strong.
Absolute rubbish. Completely wrong. I was at my strongest doing full body workouts. I squatted 255, deadlifted 300, and bench 180. These are all in kilos, and I was doing full body workouts. It's completely wrong. Provably false.
Yeah, Reg Park would have something to say about that as well. But look, not taking up arms against you, Ryan, but it's nonsense. The program really doesn't matter. That's how it's you and you adjusting the program based on what's going on in the gym. Mm-hmm. Hey guys, would you program incline bench, flat bench, shoulder pressing in one session? It depends on the demands of the program. I do. I don't like all those barbell exercises in one program, so I would not do that in one program. I don't like it. Like I might do a flat bench, seated dumbbell overhead press, and then maybe a machine chest press. But I like to mix it up when I do heavy pressing type of days. That's how I prefer a program.
Yeah, a setup that I liked a lot when I was younger, Florian, was I would bench and incline on one day, then I would overhead press and dip on the other day. That was how I did things. And I would vary things as well. So it wouldn't be an incline barbell, it would be incline dumbbell. But yeah, bench incline, press and dip tend to work quite well for me on alternate days.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to go hard on the
Yeah.
barbells one day and then the dumbbells the next, like we opened up with the question from HB, yeah, it really doesn't matter as long as the big picture over the course of a week and it's working for you.
Yeah.
Aberrant, thanks. You're welcome. 3 days grace. Thanks. Got 96. That's excellent.
Nice, dude.
David Revere, opinions on different pull-up grips. I'm just going to say real quick, neutral grip, a lot of people are naturally stronger at neutral grip, so don't rule out a neutral grip, especially if you I'm much better at a neutral grip than I am the standard pull-up grip. And when you have the chin-up style, that's a different beast for me. So whatever works in the context of your program. Fast.
Yeah, very similar answer. I mean, I like the neutral grip. It's a little bit easier on the shoulders and the elbows. I find the underhand grip can affect people's elbows, and the overhand grip can affect people's lats. So neutral tends to be a nice compromise. But I would treat them as different exercises. That's how I do it. I have different rep PRs for different grips.
Right. At the end of the day, if you're good at both, it's probably good to do both. Maybe every other week or every other set. 3 days grace makes sense. Thanks for answering.
That was the nutrients, yeah.
Doesn't matter about spacing out protein. No, it doesn't matter at all. Look, look at the bigger picture. What do they call it? The waste that goes from your stomach and your intestines. It's escaping me, and I've talked about it 1,000 times. Chyme. Like once the food is in your intestines in the form of chyme, your body's going to slow down or speed digestion up to maximize things. It's not inefficient. The body is efficient at maximizing resources. So getting things every 2.3 hours or whatever it used to be is not necessary at all.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to practical. It comes down to practicality. I mean, let's say you're eating 200 grams of protein a day. Now, if you have all that in one meal, it's probably not ideal because by the time you're finished digesting that, you're probably going to have some hours of the day where you don't have protein for anabolism. Now, I just want to interject myself with saying that what Steve said is true. I don't think it matters massively. Like your overall protein intake is way more important. But you got to bear in mind, like I do work with a lot of competitors who are very lean and they're very precise with their nutrition. So it does make a difference. Like overall, having your protein reasonably spread through the day in at least 3 or 4 meals does make a difference. And you will notice that. But if you're still at the point where you're struggling to get your protein intake in, like just on a daily basis, then that's the first thing you need to focus on. I mean, Steve and I have been saying this for the last couple of hours, get the basics down first. Now, when you have the luxury to be able to concern yourself with timing of protein intake, then sure, even spread it out evenly, as long as that's suitable for your goals. But before then, just focus on getting your protein in.
Yeah, and having 200 grams in one meal is very, very difficult to achieve. I mean, like some of my meals lately have been like 10 eggs and an ounce of cheese, and that's not. It's hard to eat more than that for me.
Yeah. I normally do about 50 grams 4 times a day. So.
I love how crummy feeling days turn out to be the best stuff days. Yeah, fuck your. I made a video about this. Fuck your feelings. I don't care how you feel. Go into the gym and train.
Yes.
On days when I feel crappy, what I try to do is just get the first set in.
Yeah.
Because once you get that first set done, things generally start to snowball a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Just get in the car, drive to the gym.
When I get to the gym from surgery, do you recommend I should avoid certain exercises? Absolutely. I don't know. I think you had gallbladder surgery. I don't know the demands of your surgery. My wife had loose skin removed from her stomach. She lost 100 pounds. I know it took her 3-4 months to recover from that. So yes, you have to go in slow. You have to go in low. You have to go in super moderate, and you have to not say I have to do this lift because Joe Schmo said so. you need to not do any lifts that aggravate anything.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that, really. Yeah.
Mr. Guy, randomly need to work 16-hour days. We need to get you a new job. Typically, I have no warning before 7 a.m. that day. These can go anywhere from 1 to 5 days. How would you, a flexible schedule? Most of my clients, I keep a flexible schedule, and we have to work with what we can control. So you can't control your frequency. You're better off on maybe, say, a full body or an upper lower, where you can just cycle between those workouts when you can lift.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario on a full body, you can only do one once every 6 days. That's still pretty good frequency. You're not going to be detrained. Same thing with an upper lower. Fast?
Yeah, basically what Steve said, but just one thing. Let's say you've got 3 full body days, full body A, B, and C. And this week you can only manage full body A, right? That's fine. But next week, don't repeat full body A. Do full body B, then C, then A, B, C, A, B, C. So do it as a continuum. The way that I've seen some people do it is they'll just, if they miss a session at the end of the week, they won't do that session. They'll just go to the beginning of next week. So what will happen is you'll constantly miss the final session. Don't do that. Just view your weeks as more of a rotation. ABC, 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 and then just do that as many times a week as you can.
All right. So I was researching the next question. Mike says he was talking about there's this genetic freak thing is dead. There are not genetic freaks that can gain 20 pounds more muscle than us. If there were, they would be at the peak of the natural bodybuilding world, and they would be destroying the top competitors at the top natural levels. It's a fairy tale. There's not guys that can gain 20 more pounds of muscle than the next guy. If they did, we would see them repeatedly as natty pros, and they don't exist. I think Mike was being a little bit polite. There are certain genetic freaks that gain muscle naturally more fast, or I went to school with a football player in high school that looked like a bodybuilder that never really trained. He had natural mass. And there are certain people, because of limb lengths, the leverages, or natural muscularity are stronger than the next guy. But I'm just going to put this out there. There are not guys that have 20 more pounds of muscle than the top natty champions. They don't exist. It's a fairy tale. And I'm not bashing on Mike, but if this were the case, we would see this at the top pro level, natty level. And I have yet to see somebody 20 pounds heavier than the next guy unless you're on duck eggs.
Yeah, I'm honestly quite confused by the whole question, to be honest. I'm kind of lost. So I'm going to just not reply back to that.
Have you guys ever caught clients?
Yes. Massively. Holy shit. This could be a whole podcast by itself. We could do 2 hours on this. I'll just say yes. I'm not going to expand on that. I'll just say yes.
Yes.
It could literally be a book. I could tell you some stories.
Yeah, when I'm done coaching, then I'll talk about this. Okay.
Yes.
Kitty. Kitty must be in a good place right now.
Oh, yeah. The cat, she's very needy. Sorry.
We're almost done, Faz. Hang tough. Hamstrings hard to develop. Yeah, it's not easy. Like, hamstrings are like calves. When's the last time you met somebody that's like, man, it's hamstring day? Right? It's not that there are limited quality exercises, but there's not often a lot of great passion for it.
I think the big problem that I see with hamstring training is this. When people do compound exercises for the hamstrings, they don't target the hamstrings. So they don't leverage towards the hamstrings. So when you're doing good mornings, stiff leg deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, you can very easily just target your lower back without targeting your hamstrings a great deal. And that's the big problem. Like, people need to isolate, it's particularly the hamstrings. Hamstrings are very troublesome. Like, you can't take the typical progressive overload mentality and apply it to hamstrings, because you will shaft yourself. You'll end up just training your lower back. I see this as a massive common problem. People will show me a good morning, or they'll say, here's my good morning with 100 kilos. I immediately know it's going to be a shit show. because they're bending at the knees, they're bending at the back, and like it's just horrendous. It's all lower back. So the problem with the hamstrings is not so much they're hard to develop, it's that people train them terribly. You can't just do like a compound hip hinge exercise and expect your hamstrings to grow. For most people that I've worked with, when they come to me initially, they can't target hamstrings with hip hinge exercises. They need to be taught how to do that. They need to really tilt the pelvis back, push back out like this, keep the knees solid, really pull back with the glutes as they do either the good morning or the Romanian deadlift, really stretch the hamstring, stretch the glute to the point where it's like painful, and then pull back. Most people don't do that. They bend over and it's all lower back. So that's the big problem when it comes to developing hamstrings. And on top of that, they probably don't do enough isolation work for hamstrings either. You'll typically find like the typical like power, like the ex-power lifter or power building type of physique usually lacks in hamstrings, delts, maybe biceps for that reason. It's because if you like that, that's what I'm that example. So when I finished with powerlifting, I'd have excellent chest, excellent back, excellent quads, almost non-existent hamstrings and biceps, because you need to properly prioritize those with your training. You can't just have a power building mindset for the hamstrings and the biceps. They won't work. So unless you're gifted in those areas. So that's the reason why people just train them horrendously, and they train with this progressive overload mindset of everything. You can't do that. It's bodybuilding. You have to target the muscles.
All right. We got a new question. Cistache, have you heard of it, Fast? It's a desert plant, series of desert plants.
Never heard of it.
All you need to know is go over to examine.com and search it, and you will find nothing. There's no meta-analysis. You'll find a couple of random studies from 2015, 2016. People, it's the old magic desert plant trick. There has been some studies that show it reduces cholesterol and maybe even improves testosterone. But these are random one-off studies. There's not a lot of research on it. There's no meta-analysis over at examine.com, which is a huge red flag. And it's not going to help you at all with your natural muscle building potential. You're going to waste money. And if you want to improve your testosterone, stress, sleep, diet, sun, that sort of thing.
In fact, I just add one thing to this. When it comes to interpreting research, have some humility. Okay, like odds are, Nicholas, you're not a scientist. Neither am I, and neither is Steve. Leave interpretation of the scientific literature to the scientists. Like examine.com have a team of scientists on board. BioLane does a bunch of stuff. He's a PhD, so leave it to them. I generally don't talk about like individual studies anymore because there's a massive there's just a lot of inaccuracy with stuff, and it might not be applicable. Leave it to the experts to give you the definition. Leave it to the unbiased experts to give you the bottom line on these things. In general, like Steve says, it's not a thing to be focusing on.
Examine.com is my go-to reference. And when somebody asks me, I always go there to check the updated meta-analysis from the experts, the updated, the current. There is no information on this. So that does not mean scientifically that it's useless. But look, we have another desert plant, pull it out of the bag, wild, rare plant trick. We've seen this sleight of hand a million times. It's got to be enough to have us pause and not spend money until it. Look, if there was enough reason scientifically to get excited about this in 2015, 2016, it would have caught wildfire like creatine did. You know, it's just not there. No. Spend your money on coaching or on nachos.
Anabolic.
Nachos are probably more anabolic than that stuff. Versace, would you say if someone gained 12 pounds their first year, that'd be very good? Then eight the following year would be possible. Yes. You know, you're going to have a law of, like, basically This is a dumbed down rule, and it's not a carved in stone rule. It's a general guideline. Whatever your natural potential is, let's say it's 30, let's say it's 40, let's say it's Dr. Mike's 50, whatever you happen to believe, a good general guideline is whatever you have left in your pool, you could potentially gain about half of that in the coming year. So that's kind of a return on it. Like if you say, hey, Steve says you can gain 32 pounds of mass, you could potentially gain 16 your first year, and then you're down to 16, so you could potentially gain 8 the next year. So the whole point of this is not to create a rule. It's to let you guys know that whatever you have left, you're going to really struggle to get half of that during the coming year. And when all this works out, it really works out to, in a perfect world, if you train properly over the course of 5 years, you could probably gain about 90% of your natty potential. Probably. How often does this happen? Rarely. But it'd be more like 12, 8, 6, 5, 4, something like that. Any
Yeah, I think
thoughts?
you're doing a great job, dude. Like, keep it up.
Nicholas, do you guys think Olympic lifts are the hardest to learn properly? Wow, man. I probably years ago, Faz, I would have said yes, but now after coaching the squat for so many years, I kind of think the squat is in the argument. What do you think?
Yeah, squat's a difficult one. Squat's always the one that I see people struggle with the most. I don't know. It's difficult for me to answer that because I don't teach Olympic lifts as a rule, so
Yeah.
I don't know the complexities of the snatch and the clean and jerk. I was never particularly great at the clean and jerk or snatch. I could never really do a passable full snatch or clean and jerk. So I don't know. I guess I just don't feel qualified to answer that question. It's not really something I'm interested in.
Same. Back in the day, I used to take the bar out on the lawn and try to do snatches, and quickly I realized I'm not good, so I set that aside.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was asked, but deloads the topic. You and Faz disagree. No, I think we just covered that.
I think we disagree on Pepsi and cola more. Like, what's better?
Yeah, no, it's. I think we both agree that we're trying to get people to the 90%, and then what we do there is highly individual.
Yeah, I mean,
what's going on?
Yeah, two things. Firstly, I don't think disagreements are bad in the grand scheme of things. But secondly, if you look at the discussion that we have had, I don't think there's a disagreement there. So because Steve's reacting to people's cycles and how they're feeling. So am I. I don't know. I think I don't understand. I guess for me, not to go off on a rant, but I don't understand people's obsession with trying to create differences. Like, what do you gain from that, Nicholas? How does it help you? I don't understand. I don't know. I'll leave it there.
Nachos. Speaking of nachos, one of my traps is larger than the other. You know what? If you look at me, my left trap is higher than my right. It's always been higher than my right. Always. If you look at any video, if you look close, you can see the difference. How about correctness? No idea. No idea. It's like trying to correct the difference between your left and right arm size. I've spent 38 years. All I've learned is some things you can't fix.
Yeah. I mean, I can run you through what people give as typical advice, but then it's like the time you spend correcting an imbalance, by definition, is going to be time you spend not building the other side, right? Because that's how you're going to even it out, right? Otherwise, you're just training both at the same time. So are you prepared to do that? Are you prepared to hold your right arm at, say, 16 inches while your left arm catches up? Are you prepared to do that? How is that going to change your training? How is it going to, you're going to probably have to spend a year or more doing that. Like, are you prepared to do that? I would say most people aren't actually prepared to do that.
See, I guarantee if you look, you can kind of see my right trap is lower than my left. It's been like that my whole life, but I guarantee you've never noticed it before.
Yeah.
I guarantee you've never noticed that my right arm is a half inch bigger than my left, because when things are small, the gap feels like this. But as you improve both, the gap just becomes like this.
Yeah.
So I'm one that I don't try to spend time on imbalances. I just try to bring everything up so the gap seems smaller.
Yeah.
Mr. Guy, thanks for the response. This felt like I've been spinning my wheels for the last 6 months. You bet. And we're not trying to be short, guys. I'm just trying to get Faz out of here so we can both pee. Should I have gained more than 1 inch on my left arm after 7 months? That's pretty good, man.
Good, man.
Usually, I tell clients if you can gain an inch in a year, you're on a good path. So you're on a good path. How about you, Faz?
That's fantastic. I mean, 7 months gaining 15 pounds of muscle, that sounds almost unbelievable.
Yeah, it's good. You're doing good. Florian, thanks a lot. You bet. And we appreciate everybody tuning in. Gert, from a 54-year-old sports rat, since 6 months working on planche and front lever, now started weighted pull-ups, dips, heavy OHPs, da, da, da. Good work, man. I mean, that's a lot of good work for 54. I'm 54. I ain't no front lever in my future, I'll tell you that much. All right, Osama, how would you guys incorporate GPP? You know what, Faz, I'm going to say this. GPP is like general activity, and I don't program GPP. I tell people to do what they like to do. You want to do yoga, do yoga. You want to run, do run. You want to swim, swim. You want to do tire flips or rope battle ropes or whatever. Just bring up your overall general conditioning from an activity standpoint. I wouldn't overthink it. Do what you like to do. Any general thoughts, Faz?
Yeah, I mean, I would just, if you really feel it's a problem, I would just improve your conditioning. Like, do some cardio, maybe drop some body fat. I do follow Osama on Instagram. I know he's been on a cut recently, so maybe that's causing you to gas out more. But I think we'd have to look at all aspects of your program, look at your body fat, look at your body composition to give you a proper answer, because it's going to vary based on with different people. Like, for one guy, he could be on lower calories, so he's just getting gassed out because he's tired. For another guy, he could be breaking through to new weights. So perhaps he's lifting more than he has been in the past year or two. Perhaps he's made some quick progress. Well, guess what? Squats with 300 pounds are going to tire you out more than squats with 135. That's just a fact, right? That's not you being gassed more. It's just the fact that you're stronger. And then it could just be like your conditioning hasn't, let's say you've been on the end of a bulk. Maybe your conditioning is just gone to crap and you need to actually do some time doing some conditioning work at the end of your workout. So Osama, would love to help you. I think you're a nice guy, but I'd need more detail and, you know.
So Faz, I'm going to prep something for the next question. And let's see, where'd you go? There you are. Sorry, I have too many. Wait, I'm going to jump forward. How do you get the name Big Hairy Ugly Dude? Okay, let me see if I can share the screen here. Maybe not. I don't know if I can share the screen. Hold on just 1 second, guys. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to do a screen share here, and I don't know if it'll work. Oh my goodness! Way back in the day when I started YouTube, I'm from a city called Fond du Lac, and Fond du Lac, it's kind of a weird thing to say. So people started calling me, or I started calling myself the bearded beast of Dulac, Fond du Lac, right? Dulac, and then that kind of transitioned into the Big Hairy Ugly Dude, and this is my 100th video. I just want to thank you guys for tuning into my channel and subscribing. I don't really have any words of wisdom for my 100th video, but I sat and thought about today how I would celebrate it and what I would share with you guys. And only one thing came to mind, kids, and that is sharing some bacon with you. This is an entire pack of bacon. So, guys, all right, enough about that. Yeah.
That's great.
That's like 12 years ago or something. Yeah. So, yeah, sorry, I had to pull it up real quick. What do we got? Keep trying to get through. Just wanted to say thank you. We really appreciate the support.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. Thanks.
To take deloads every 4th week. I don't like generic, like take a deload every certain week. But it really depends on the individual. Like Dan John told Faz to adjust his deloads based on what he was experiencing. So I think, Faz, would you agree that's more important than?
Yeah. And bear in mind, I would never recommend someone deload every 3rd week, because knowing now what I know now, I would get them to do either a bit less or train a little bit less hard so they can load for longer. So I think you've got to react to, your body and just figure stuff out. and figure out when you're going to deload. But I generally would like to see a run of training of about 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks before you deload.
Big Daniel White Jr. I'm unable to get to the gym every week. Can I achieve progressive overload? Dumbbells are a little bit tough, Dan. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like dumbbells can go a long way on most body parts, but you're gonna need a lot of dumbbell weight to really work that back. Legs are gonna be extremely difficult. You're gonna have to get super creative. Honestly, if this is the case, I would get an adjustable bench off like Titan Fitness for $100. You can get a barbell off Titan Fitness for like $100. You can get cheap squat stands for like $150. I would just ask Santa Claus for $500. I would sell everything you own on eBay and get $500 and just get squat stands, a barbell, just so you have a little bit more resources other than dumbbell. Any thoughts, Faz?
No, I agree. I think it's very difficult when you've got somebody with a home gym setup which is not complete and they want to actually progress, whether it's for fat loss, whether it's for muscle building. It's just really difficult because you're very much stuck with options. Like you just can't. The basis of a good exercise is you have to be able to load it over time. And if you can't load over time, you're stuck. You're basically stuck at maintenance. In that case, either get some equipment or just accept the fact you're going to maintain and don't gain during those weeks and adjust accordingly.
Yeah, it might just be a maintain type of week, but the honest truth is, if you guys are going to do the home gym route, you got to take it seriously.
Yes,
you do. You need a minimal amount of equipment, and if you half-ass the equipment, there's like, what do I do? During the pandemic, it was like I got a toothpick and 2 rubber bands. What can I do to build muscle?
Yeah,
buy stuff. That's the honest truth.
Yeah.
Thanks, bros. I'll keep it building.
Cheers, bro.
Not a troll question, but if Ronnie Coleman or Big Ramy lifted natural for 10 years, they would gain. Well, no, they.
All right. My question is, how do you know? That's my question. How do you know? You're guessing. And look, I didn't want to go into this because I know this is Mike's thing, right? But Mike's argument was, and basically, Poik, don't even pronounce his name. Poik is basically parroting Mike's argument. Mike said that if Big Ramy, this is how I know you're parroting because Big Ramy exactly said this. You're basically, this is funny. So what I want to know is, Poik, what are your thoughts? Never mind what we think. What are your thoughts? Like me personally, when Mike says Big Ramy wouldn't have been 220 or 240 if he was natural, you don't know. You're guessing. He's guessing. You're guessing. So you're coming on to this podcast saying, well, what do you guys think of this guess? What are we supposed to think of it? It's not based in reality. So what are we supposed to think? We're supposed to say, well, you're right, you're wrong. It's not based on reality. It's a guess. And what Steve said is still very true. You don't see that in the natural ranks. You just don't see it. So you're guessing, he's aware he's guessing. Don't take it as gospel. He's guessing. So are you. So what answer do you possibly expect from us? How could we react to that? Like, all right, let me ask you a question, Steve. Steve, what are we going to do if tomorrow the sky falls on us? What are we going to do?
I'm going to eat pizza, man.
Right. Can we have a plan? What do you think about that? Do you think the sky could fall on us? I think it's possible. See what I mean? We're not dealing with realities here. So I don't know how to answer that question. Whether we say yes, whether we say no, it doesn't really matter. It's meaningless.
So I'm gonna take people back. Like, I'm not my history. Working with muscle and strength way back to 2007, even muscle and brawn, like the giant killer, Sean Clarita. Okay. Me and him go way back. He's in the Mr. Olympia right now. Me and him go back in time to Natty World, right? Way back. I go way back interviewing all these guys before they were guys, like the top natty bodybuilders. You look at muscle and strength, I'm interviewing the top, guys that were in 3D Muscle Journey now, guys that I was interviewing the guys before they were guys. That's the reality. I'm not bragging, but I was in that world long before, with the guys that are the guys now, long before anybody knew who they are. And in that world, you would know the body weight of the top natural competitors at the top legit natural bodybuilding contests. And if somebody was over 180 in the natural realm, they were pretty darn huge on stage. You know, 185, you might be 6 foot. 188, you might be 6'1". But these were the best of the best year in and year out for the last 40, 50, 30 years. None of them came in at 208.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we know.
Exactly. This, I mean, if you're asking me to just have a fun guess, I don't know, man. I don't see it. Like Steve said, you just don't see it, you know? So I don't know. I'd ask you the question, like, what do you think? What do you think? Do you think Big Ramy could be 220 on stage? If you do, a natural, if you do, cool. Okay. Problem solved. End of conversation. I just don't think it adds very much. And it's not based in reality. The reality is we know what naturals are weighing in at right now.
I've spent my life studying this and I've never seen it. I've spent my life studying this and I've never seen it. So that's my only opinion. I've never seen it. There are people with giantism and people with medical disorders that can break the mold. But I've never seen anybody with giantism compete in bodybuilding.
Yeah, so you got to just remember, look, what you're asking is based on speculation. You're asking me to speculate on your speculation.
Thanks, Neil. We're going to try to get out of here. You bet, Osama. How to distinguish between if I'm doing something too much or not enough. If you get injured both times, wow, we would have to really unpack that, Sandro. So if you want to send me a DM on Instagram at Ben the Barman or Faz, we would have to know a lot more information.
Yeah,
there could be some kind of a medical condition.
Yeah.
For which level of experience will creeping death progression work? Once you're past the real beginner stages, you know, like, you're not struggling for a 135 bench, you know, you're more at like a 165 bench, you're late beginner type of strength, creeping death progression would work quite well. This is the last one we're hopping out. If someone gained 50 pounds of muscle, no one says gain 50 pounds of muscle naturally. No one, you're like, if Superman, there's no Superman. There's no Superman. There's no one that's ever done this. No one. No one. Check the records of natty competitions. There's no one 20 pounds more than the next guy.
What's that joke? If my grandmother had wheels, they'd say she was a bike.
Right. It doesn't exist. We're talking about things that don't exist. All right, guys, we're out of here. We appreciate your support. You can find Fazlifts on Instagram, on YouTube, at fazlifts.com. You can find me right here. We appreciate your support. And Faz, you know, every time you're on here, I absolutely love it because we go really long. But the conversations are great. They're really good conversations and people enjoy it. So I know it's a stretch for you. But I sincerely appreciate you taking time to join us.
Always a pleasure, guys. So thanks very much for having me, and see you later, everyone. Have a nice weekend.
All right, we're out of here.
It's not almost over. It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.